Chapter 60. Dozong. And a high-level Dozong. I didn't expect such a terrifying expert to live in the small Wu-Tan city. The Gold-Silver brothers are really pitiful. They probably didn't expect to fall here even when they died. Everyone in the field stared blankly at the place of the explosion, recalling the scene where the Gold-Silver brothers turned into nothingness. One by one, they looked at Chu Bei with more worship and respect. Hypedon took a deep breath, tilted his head to look at Jixingxian, and leisurely said, "Old Jia, now you understand why I didn't hesitate to use all the power of the clan to help Boss Chu hold this auction?" Jixingxian glanced at Hypedon, but didn't say anything. He just nodded solemnly. For the imperial family, it was hard to say whether such a terrifying expert living in seclusion in the empire was a blessing or a curse. "I am a businessman. I run a small business, clearly mark the price, and deceive neither the old nor the young. But if someone doesn't follow the rules, then I can only receive them in an unfriendly manner." At this time, a voice without the slightest emotion suddenly sounded in everyone's ears. As the voice sounded, the field instantly became quiet, and everyone looked at Chu Bei with some fear in their eyes. "Everyone, what happened just now? You just watched a show. This auction will continue, waiting for you to bid." Chu Bei said with a smile, "The starting price of the Mark 9 battle armor is 200 million, and each bid must not be less than 10 million. As for the move that killed the Gold-Silver brothers, he used the one-time use of a level 8 commodity given by the system. It was called Kamehameha, and it came from the Dragon Ball plane. It was a unique skill created by Master Rashi." Hearing Chu Bei's words, everyone in the field realized that the auction wasn't over yet. 210 million. Jixingxian was slightly stunned, and was the first to bid. 220 million. Hypedon slightly hesitated and raised the price. "Old Ice, what do you think?" Jixingxian glanced at Hypedon. Hypedon rolled his eyes at Jixingxian. "Whoever gets this battle armor will have the strength of a Dozong. Of course, I want to compete." "You old man, you are really something." Jixingxian glared at Hypedon and said, 230 million, 240 million, 250 million, 260 million, 270 million, 280 million. While Jia Xingtian and Haibo Dong were constantly bidding, a group of officials and nobles had already let out a gasp. Not to mention the current price of 300 million. Even the starting price of 200 million was already an astronomical figure that was out of their reach. 250 million. Finally, when Middle and Tingshan flew out of the box, the two people's bidding came to a conclusion. Just as Hypedon was about to raise the price, Tingshan helplessly whispered a few words into Hippodon's ear. At this moment, Hippodon's brows were tightly knitted, and his face was filled with resentment and unwillingness. "Old Ice, if you continue to bid, my imperial treasury will be completely empty." Jixingxian let out a long sigh. "Everyone, is there anyone else who wants to raise the price?" A few seconds later, Chu Bei's calm voice sounded. "If that's the case, then 400 million. However, just when everyone thought that Jixingxian was the final winner and Chu Bei was about to announce the result, a cold and indifferent voice floated in the air. "Who is it?" Everyone stood up and looked in the direction of the voice. As a matter of fact, the person with the greatest emotional fluctuation was none other than Hypedon, who had been bidding with Jixingxian. When he heard the voice, his body trembled violently. Then, his eyes surged with monstrous hatred as he clenched his fists. The person who bid was a woman. She was wearing a graceful purple brocade robe. Beneath the embroidered robe was a voluptuous and exquisite figure. Her head of fine black hair casually draped over her fragrant shoulders and hung down to her slender willowy waist. Unfortunately, she was wearing a black veil hat, making it difficult to see her face. "Medusa!" Hypedon shouted. "Medusa? She is Queen Medusa of the Naga tribe. Why is she here?" Everyone's eyes were fixed on the purple-robed woman. At first, they were stunned. Then, everyone, including Jixingxian and Dharma Mammoth, changed their expressions. "I didn't expect you to be the one who broke my seal." Medusa glanced at Hypedon with disdain. "If I'm not wrong, it should be Boss Chu's doing. All these years of misfortune are all thanks to you." Hypedon snorted coldly. If the two of you want to catch up, you can find another time. Chu Bei's gaze swept across Medusa, Hypedon, and finally landed on Jixingtian. Do you want to continue bidding? Jixingtian was silent for a while. After communicating with the Jiama Emperor, he shook his head. The current maximum amount of funds that the Imperial Treasury could use was 380 million. This was also the lowest price that the Imperial family could bid. Unlike the Naga tribe lived in the Tagar Desert all year round. The wealth accumulated over hundreds of years was not of much use to them. On the other hand, the imperial family of the empire had to keep enough funds to maintain the normal operations of the palace. Of course, the main reason why Jixingtian gave up on bidding was because the bidder was Queen Medusa of the Naga tribe. From the information he received, Medusa had recently been promoted to a dozong. She was not someone that he could provoke. On the other hand, if the bidder was Hypedon or the Dharma Mammoth, he would get this armor at all costs. Since no one is bidding, I announce that the level 8 Mark 9 battle armor is won by Queen Medusa of the Naga tribe. Chu Bei's loud voice reverberated throughout the auction house, signifying the end of the auction. In the next 2 hours, Chu Bei was immersed in the joy of receiving the goods with one hand and receiving the money with the other. Every time the system received willpower, he would receive 1/5 of the willpower due to the reverse nurturing. The 6 items were auctioned for a total of 765 million. Converted to willpower, the system received 765 million willpower, and he received 153 million willpower, in addition to the previous 205,000 willpower. Now, Chu Bei had a total of 735 million willpower. Once he returned to the All Heavens shop, Chu Bei opened the system interface. For a king of Fighting Realm, it would require 200,000 willpower points to exchange for a 1-star cultivation base. Chu Bei did not hesitate and used 4 million willpower to raise his cultivation from 2 stars to 9 stars. It was not that he did not want to break through to King Realm, but that 1-star cultivation required 500,000 willpower. In 7 days, Host must adapt and stabilize his current cultivation. During this time, Host is not allowed to sell any items. Suddenly, the system's voice sounded. Chu Bei was stunned. This directly interrupted his thoughts of becoming a dohuang on the 2nd day. The sun set in the west. Although the All Heavens shop auction had ended, the pedestrians in Wu-Tan City and on the roads leading to other cities were still talking about it. As long as he sold all of them, he would get 1 level 3 treasure chest for free. If he didn't want the treasure chest, he could use it to exchange for his cultivation. Looking at the excited Xiaoyan, Chu Bei smiled. He was the one who benefited the most. The willpower he got from being an agent was not within the limit of what he could sell every day. After confirming that Xiaoyan had learned how to use the agency ring, Chu Bei slowly opened the door. Brother Xiaoyan, why did Boss Chu look for you alone? Seeing Xiaoyan walk out of the room and looking at his satisfied expression, Xiao Sunair immediately went forward to ask. You will know in the future. Xiaoyan pinched Xiao Sunair's face and pretended to be mysterious. Then, he cupped his fists towards Chu Bei and said, Goodbye. Boss Chu, if you have time, come to Canaan College as a guest. The dean would definitely want to make friends with you. Before leaving, Luo Tian represented Canaan College and sent an invitation to Chu Bei. 2 days had passed since the auction ended. The Kama Empire had also completely spread. Have you heard about the Heaven auction in Wu-Tan City? Nonsense, of course I've heard about it. 6 items were sold for 765 million. Terrifying. This mysterious merchant Boss Chu is now the richest man in the empire. Even the imperial treasury can't compare to him. Didn't they say that there was a small incident during the auction? The great elder of the Yunlan sect came to cause trouble and was killed. So what? Could it be that the Yunlan sect still dares to cause trouble for Boss Chu? Even Mr. Gold Silver from the Black Corner region was killed by Boss Chu in 1 hit. That's true. Boss Chu is at least a 6-star dozong. Even the previous sect leader of the Yunlan sect is far from him. In merely 2 days, Chu Bei's name had spread to every corner of the Jiama Empire under the effect of the tapwater effect. Deep within the misty cloud mountain, the forest was dense and the ravines were crisscrossed. Suddenly, A dense and majestic aura shot up to the sky. Immediately after, a white figure rose from the ravine and laughed loudly. Looking at it, the white figure was wearing an extremely simple white robe. When the breeze blew, there was a kind of otherworldly aura. He did not summon his dochi wings. Instead, he walked in the air. Every time his feet landed, a circle of ripples would appear in the air. When the ripples disappeared, the figure was already 100 meters away. His speed was extremely fast. This person was the previous sect leader of the Yunlan sect, Yunshan. However, when Yunshan passed by the Yunlan sect's plaza and heard the discussions of the disciples below, his laughter disappeared and his face gradually became gloomy. Where is Yun? After a few steps, Yunshan arrived at the top of a luxurious hall. His vigorous and loud voice drifted out. Teacher, you have come out of seclusion. Not long after, a graceful woman flew out from the large hall. Behind her were 6 misty cloud sect elders. Greetings, old sect leader. The 6 elders had respectful expressions and bowed to Yunshan in unison. What happened to Yunlong's death? Yunshan coldly looked at Yun and questioned her. He provoked someone he shouldn't have. Yun shook her head. After a sigh, she told him everything that she had found out. Just because he was a high-level dozong, he could look down on the Yunlan sect and casually kill our great elder. After hearing Yun's words, Yunshan clenched his fists and his face became increasingly ugly. Sensing the ruthlessness in Yunshan's eyes, Yun hurriedly said, Teacher, we can't provoke Boss Chu. Let's drop this matter. So what if he was a high-level dozong? He must pay the price for Yunlong's death. Yunshan narrowed his eyes. His voice was cold and filled with killing intent. Canaan College, Freshman Plaza. After the freshmen introduced themselves, they began to get familiar with each other. However, there was one scene that seemed out of place. A young man squatted on the ground and shouted, Don't miss out on this opportunity. A level 3 treasure chest costs 100,000 each. It's a profit if you buy it. Come and take a look. In front of him was a large piece of black cloth. 10 identical square boxes were arranged in an orderly manner on the cloth. Xiaoyan Gij, is this the opportunity that Boss Chu gave you? Looking at the freshmen gathering around and hearing Xiaoyan shout, Xiao Sun Er couldn't help but lower her head. Her face was flushed. Who is this guy? He actually started a business in the college. I think he's from a small city in the Kama Empire. He's selling boxes? Haha, this is interesting. Let's go and take a look. Xiaoyan's shout quickly became the focus of the plaza. Within a few seconds, he was surrounded by people. Chapter 62. Everyone, take a look. If you have money, you might as well take a gamble. If you don't buy, you'll suffer a loss, and if you don't buy, you'll make a killing. In the freshman square, Xiaoyan didn't shy away from shouting loudly, waving at the freshmen around him from time to time. Just one box costs 100,000 gold? What's inside? A group of freshmen carefully looked at the 10 boxes in front of Xiaoyan, their faces filled with curiosity. This box is called a lucky box. If you're lucky, you'll find a treasure when you open it, and you'll get endless benefits. If you're unlucky, you'll get nothing. Xiaoyan smiled. Don't tell me they're all empty boxes. A group of freshmen looked at Xiaoyan suspiciously. That's hard to say. They could all be treasures, or they could be as you guessed. Xiaoyan thought about the probability of him opening the box and said, We're all from the same school. If I don't do business with integrity, I'm afraid it'll be hard for me to stay in the college in the future. Hearing Xiaoyan's words, the surrounding freshmen fell into hesitation. Give me one. I want one too. Canaan College didn't lack students with strong backgrounds. Soon, 3 freshmen were ready to make a move and spoke one after another. Buzz. Just as the 3 freshmen took out a total of 300,000 gold, the proxy ring on Xiaoyan's hand emitted a blue light. In the next moment, the 300,000 gold disappeared. Seeing this scene, the gazes that the new students used to look at Xiaoyan became a little more unusual. Almost at the same time, the 3 freshmen each chose one box from the 10 boxes. Where do we open this box? Just as a freshman opened his mouth to ask, the 3 boxes exploded at the same time. However, the uniform explosion faded away, leaving only 3 Thank you for your patronage. Haha, sure enough, there's nothing. These three idiots, they actually believe that there was treasure in the box. The landlord's foolish son. I understand. I understand. Hearing the mocking laughter around them, the faces of the three freshmen who spent money suddenly turned ugly. An intense anger also rose within the gaze that was used to look at Xiao Yan. As I've said before, there's a chance that there's nothing in this box. Hit him. When Xiao Yan noticed the anger on the three freshmen's faces, he stood up to calm them down. However, before he could finish speaking, the three of them had already clenched their fists and attacked him. You guys are too impulsive. Xiao Yan did not dodge or avoid the attacks of the three freshmen. He sighed and casually extended his palm to meet the attacks. Bang, bang, bang. The fist and the palm collided, and the three freshmen were pushed back several meters. They staggered and fell on their butts. That's a battle chi cloak. Dosher. He is actually a dosher. Oh my god. How is this possible? To think that at my age, a 2 stars fighter is already considered a monster among monsters. Who the hell is he? The gazes of the freshmen all focused on the thin battle chi cloak around Xiao Yan's body. They were extremely shocked. The three freshmen who paid for the boxes got up from the ground. When they saw Xiao Yan's battle chi cloak, their mouths were wide open and they looked at each other in dismay. The three of you are my first customers since I came to the academy. Like I said before, it's a small business, honest business. Xiao Yan looked at the three freshmen. This lucky box might not appear, but once it does, its value is far beyond your imagination. Okay, I'll believe you for the time being. Moreover, even if I'm cheated, I'll use this money to buy you as a friend. Among the three freshmen who bought the boxes before, the one with a particularly fat body took out 700,000 gold coins. I'll take all of the remaining 7 boxes. Looking at the fat guy who took out 700,000 gold coins to continue buying, Xiao Yan was astonished. Buzz. The proxy ring emitted a blue light and swallowed 700,000 gold coins. Then, the 7 boxes exploded at the same time. 6 of the boxes contained, "Thank you for your patronage." There was also a square box that contained 9 sparkling and translucent thumb-sized pills. Among the 9 pills, one was purple and the other 8 were green. They really opened something. What a rich pill fragrance. Those 9 pills are definitely not normal. Looks like this fellow disciple didn't cheat us. I just don't know what the effects of those 9 pills are. The surrounding freshmen stared with wide eyes as they discussed. Damn, it really opened. The fat guy clicked his tongue, his face full of shock. The reason he spent 700,000 gold coins was no longer for the boxes, but for Xiao Yan's strength. In the academy, if he could find a dosher to back him up with 700,000 gold coins, it would be worth it. Brother, can you introduce these 9 pills? I've never seen them before. The fat guy looked at Xiao Yan expectantly. That purple pill is called the revolving pill. As its name suggests, it can help a cultivator condense their qi. You're at 9 to 1 qi, so it'll be useful for you. After introducing the revolving pill, Xiao Yan pointed at the 8 green pills. These are called doja pills. No matter if you're a 1-star doja or an 8-star doja, taking one will increase your cultivation by 1 star. Is it really like what you said? After listening to Xiao Yan's introduction of the revolving pill and doja pill, the fat guy's eyes lit up. Let's try the revolving pill first, and we'll know. Xiao Yan said with a smile. In terms of treasures, this fat guy's luck wasn't bad at all. In fact, it was off the charts. Then let's try it. The fat guy hesitated for a while before taking a deep breath and throwing the revolving pill into his mouth. Hiss. Once the pill entered his mouth, the fat guy couldn't help but let out a gasp. A faint cold feeling spread in his mouth, followed by a warm and pure energy flowing down his throat and into his body. In just a few breaths, the originally calm air around him began to ripple. Traces of pale white doja qi seeped out of the air and into the fat guy's body. The fat guy squinted his eyes as if he was enjoying this feeling. As the person involved, he could feel that the doja qi in his body seemed to have received some kind of command and started to rapidly shrink towards his lower abdomen. After a few seconds, bang! A low muffled sound came from the fat guy's body. Haha, I really succeeded. I've become a doja. Feeling the doja chi in his body, the fat guy suddenly opened his eyes and laughed out loud. The fat on his face violently rose and fell. This is unbelievable. There's actually such a pill. How come I've never heard of it before? Yeah, this fat guy really broke through. The new students could clearly feel the change in the fat guy's body. Their faces were filled with disbelief. Brother, I've already become a doja. Does that mean I can take these 8 doja pills? The fat guy seemed to have thought of something. Looking at the other 8 pills in his hand, he became even more excited. Of course you can. Xiao Yin smiled. He even gestured with an inviting hand gesture. Chapter 63. In the freshman square, the fat kid threw a warrior pill into his mouth in front of hundreds of pairs of eyes. Suddenly, the fat kid's battle chi rose by a level. This is incredible. The fat kid sighed and threw the remaining 7 doja dawn into his mouth. 2 stars warrior. 3 stars warrior. 4 stars warrior. When the last warrior pill was swallowed, the fat kid's battle chi reached its peak. 9 stars warrior. Kacha. The fat kid bent down and punched the bluestone brick under his feet. Accompanied by a crisp sound, the bluestone brick that had been bombarded turned into a pile of rubble that splashed in all directions. This is the power of a 9 stars warrior. The fat kid looked at Xiao Yin with excitement. Brother, you are my savior. It's like a dream, but this dream is actually real. You should be more grateful for your money. I'm just a businessman. Xiao Yin patted the fat kid's shoulder and imitated Chu Bei's tone. Gradually, the crowd of new students also recovered from their shock. Damn, he directly became a 9 stars warrior. That's F*King amazing. This is equivalent to going from 9 Duan Chi to 9 stars warrior. He didn't do anything. He only spent 800,000 gold coins. Now it seems like the fat kid made a killing. Compared to the other freshmen, the 2 freshmen who bought the boxes with the fat kid were full of regret. Brother, do you have any more of these boxes? Yes. Do you have any more? I also want one. No, 10. After the first freshman reacted, more and more freshmen with backgrounds took out gold coins from their storage rings and stared at Xiao Yin with burning eyes. Everyone, there are only 10 today. Come back tomorrow, it's still the same place. Xiao Yin held Xiao Suner's hand and stepped back. At the same time, he waved at the crowd. When all 10 boxes were sold, the proxy ring in Xiao Yan's hand released a stream of information. The proxy ring gave him 2 choices. One was to obtain a grade 3 treasure box, and the other was to exchange it for a cultivation reward. Xiao Yin hesitated for a moment before choosing the latter. He already knew the probability of opening a treasure box, so he might as well directly change it to the actual probability. Just as Xiao Yin made his decision, he suddenly felt a warm current flowing into his body. In just a short moment, he sensed that his cultivation had already reached the peak of the 1st star of the Dosher class. On the other side, acting as Xiao Yin, sold for 1 million gold coins. The system has obtained 10,000 willpower. The host has obtained 5,000 willpower. In the All Heavens shop, Chu Bei was enjoying the delicious food cooked by the little doctor and Qing Lin when the system's voice suddenly rang out in his knowledge sea. Good lad, you didn't disappoint me. Chu Bei was stunned at first, then a satisfied smile appeared on his face. 5 days had passed since the end of the auction. It was also the 3rd day since Xiao Yin arrived at Canaan College. The current Xiao Yin had already become a popular figure among this batch of new students. Other than his strength as a dosher, it was also because of the mysterious box that could open treasures. On the first day, 9 pills were opened from the 10 boxes. On the second day, a grade 3 monster core and a high mystic level skill manual were opened from the 10 boxes. Today, a treasure armor that could defend against the attacks of a 5-star doja was opened from the 10 boxes. Brother Xiao, you must come on time tomorrow. In the freshman square, a group of new students reluctantly sent off Xiao Yin. Not far away, a few mentors gathered together, looking at Xiao Yan's back with different expressions. This little guy has already become a part of our college's scenery. One of the mentors said, How many boxes did the mysterious merchant give him? Another mentor looked at Luo Tian and Roland. Who knows? Luo Tian smiled. I think the dean will definitely like this little guy. 7 days had passed since the auction. Side mission activated. Host has completed the transaction of the fallen heart flame. In the course of the mission, the system has determined that the host can use one level 8 product from the store. Due to the distance, the host can use the system's fixed-point transmission array for free to go to Canaan College. Mission transaction completed. 1. Received an additional 150,000 willpower for the day. 2. Awarded 1 chance to use a level 8 product. Inside the celestial shop, Chu Bei was enjoying Qing Lin's massage when the system's voice suddenly sounded. Another mysterious flame? Chu Bei murmured. Boss, what's wrong? Qing Lin's voice was weak. Tomorrow I have to go on a long trip. The corner of Chu Bei's mouth rose. He didn't expect that after Xiao Yan's group left for a few days, he would also have to set foot on Canaan College's land. How long will you be gone? Qing Lin asked. 1 or 2 days if I'm fast, 1 month if I'm slow. Chu Bei replied. The next day, Chu Bei stepped onto the fixed-point transmission array. In the middle of the Black Corner region, in the sky above Canaan City, a figure walked out of the void. Chu Bei glanced around and finally fixed his gaze on a mountain peak that stood to the north of the center of the city. The mountain peak was surrounded by celestial fog. Buildings were built along the mountain and were close to each other. Some were at the foot of the mountain, some were at the mountainside, and some were at the top of the mountain. Looking from afar, behind the main mountain peak, there were countless mountain peaks that spread out into the distance. It's really imposing. Chu Bei flew to the top of the main mountain peak and gave an evaluation. Canaan College was much bigger than he had imagined, especially the 4 words Canaan College above the simple and unadorned gate. It was very dazzling. The green stone steps and red wall tiles were carved with the vicissitudes of time. The entire college gave off a solemn and sacred aura. To be precise, the main mountain peak in front of him was only the outer court of Canaan College. The inner court where the fallen heart flame was located was the core of Canaan College. Countless experts rose from the inner court, and then their light shone on the entire continent. For thousands of years, the peak experts who walked out of the inner court all had illustrious names on the continent, and their names shook the entire continent. Compared to the outer court, the inner court was especially secretive. Even among the outer court disciples, only a few people knew about it. Although Chu Bei wasn't sure of the exact location of the inner court, he knew that it was hidden in the mountains. After flying half a circle around the main mountain peak, Chu Bei directly found an unguarded mountainside and landed. Then, he walked along a small path. Little brother, where is that Xiao Yin you were talking about? On the way, Chu Bei heard the 2 youths talking about Xiao Yin and immediately went forward to ask. At this time, that guy must be selling boxes in the freshman plaza. One of the youths sized up Chu Bei and replied, Selling boxes? Chu Bei smiled knowingly and asked the youths again. After knowing the location of the freshman plaza, he increased his speed. Soon, Chu Bei arrived at the freshman plaza. On the plaza, hundreds of freshmen were gathered around a table. Each of them stared at the 10 square boxes on the table with blazing eyes. Behind the table was Xiao Yin with a complacent face. Chapter 64. Same old rules, 100,000 gold coins for a lucky draw. Xiao Yin greeted the freshman enthusiastically. At the same time, he took out a large barrel filled with folded papers. The freshman took out a piece of paper from the barrel one after another. Haha, I got it. It's finally my turn. Bad luck. I can only wait until tomorrow. Excited cheers were mixed with sighs. The 10 people who won the lottery immediately took out 100,000 gold coins and chose the square boxes on the table. Bang, bang, bang. After a series of explosions, what followed were screams and all kinds of envious and jealous noises. Out of 10 square boxes, 9 were, "Thank you for your patronage." The only person who opened a treasure naturally became the focus of everyone. Brother Xiao, don't forget to come tomorrow. After the treasure boxes were sold, the freshmen dispersed one after another. At this time, Xiao Yin also noticed Chu Bei, who was watching nearby. Boss Chu, why are you here? Xiao Yin was stunned at first, then became excited and quickly pulled Xiao Suner forward. Your business is good. Looking at the radiant Xiao Yin, Chu Bei said with a smile, It's all thanks to you. Xiao Yin pointed at the freshman who left. The goods are good. Rush to buy them. Keep up the good work. Chu Bei patted Xiao Yan's shoulder with satisfaction. Boss Chu, you must have another purpose for coming to Jialan Academy, and not just to see me, right? Xiao Yan asked. I don't wake up early if there's no profit. I'm a businessman. Of course I'm here to do business. Chu Bei stopped and didn't say much. Dang. At this time, a loud bell rang. On the freshman square, the freshmen who were having a long conversation all moved at the same time when they heard the bell and rushed to the east. Big brother Xiao Yin, the inner court qualifiers have begun. Are we still going to watch today? Xiao Suner looked at Xiao Yin and asked, Boss Chu, do you want to join in the fun? Today is the last round of the qualifiers. Xiao Yin glanced at Chu Bei. Interesting. Chu Bei straightened his clothes. Let's go and take a look. Very quickly, Chu Bei followed Xiao Yin and arrived in front of another enormous open ground. The square was circular in shape, with stone stairs extending outwards like a wrestling ring. The inner courtyard preliminaries was a big event for Canaan College. Naturally, the spectator seats were packed with people. Chu Bei and Xiao Yin finally found a corner where they could see the stage after circling around the spectator stands for more than half a circle. At this moment, a man and a woman were continuously flashing and crossing each other on the stage. When the fists and palms of the two collided, a fierce do-chi fluctuation would burst forth. Cries of surprise would resound from the spectator stands. If one were to observe carefully, they would discover that most of the gazes in the spectator stands were locked on the purple-robed woman on the stage. Her delicate body was flashing and graceful. Bang! On the stage, the two figures crossed each other dangerously. The purple-robed woman's body suddenly paused. Then, a golden light flourished between her palms. She fiercely pressed her palm onto her opponent's chest. A strong and fierce energy exploded and shook the latter until he flew out of the stage. Thank you for letting me win. After the purple-robed woman stabilized her body, she cupped her hands toward the man outside the stage. Junior Hu Jia, I didn't expect you to be so strong. The defeated man brushed off the dust on his body and looked at the purple-robed woman on the stage. He let out a bitter laugh. Hu Jia wins this round. Hearing the cry from the referee's stand, the purple-robed woman turned around and rushed down from the stage. Boss Chu, do you know that Canaan College is actually divided into the inner and outer academies? We are currently in the outer academy. If you want to enter the inner academy to train, you must enter the top 50 of the qualifying competition. To put it bluntly, the outer academy of Canaan College is merely a place to test the new students. Its true core is within the inner academy. After saying this, Xiao Yin pointed at the purple-robed woman who had returned to her seat and said, The person who just won is known as the Witch of the Outer Academy. She is the granddaughter of the vice headmaster. You also want to enter the inner academy? Chu Bei looked at Xiao Yin. Of course. It is said that the training resources of the inner academy and the outer academy are not on the same level. The difference is huge. Xiao Yan's gaze carried a yearning. The finals have yet to begin. You can sign up and participate. Chu Bei pointed at the stage. Boss Chu, you really know how to joke. Let's not talk about the fact that I am just a new student who is registered for a few days. Just based on my strength, I am far from having the qualifications to fight. Xiao Yin thought that Chu Bei was making fun of him. He smiled embarrassedly and said, My current cultivation level is 2 stars do sure. Among the new students, perhaps no one can match me. However, if I were to be placed in the inner academy qualifying competition, I would simply be crushed. According to my observations over the past few days, without the strength of an 8-star do sure, it is impossible to break into the top 50. The impossible that you speak of is under the circumstance that I am not here. Chu Bei smiled meaningfully. Xiao Yin was at a loss for a moment, after which he seemed to understand Chu Bei's meaning. However, in the end, he still spread his hands awkwardly. Boss Chu, my financial resources are completely unable to keep up. Xiao Yin Gij, I still have some money here. At this moment, Xiao Suner interrupted. Suner, You can also ask Boss Chu to spin the table, Xiao Yin said. Xiao Suner shook her head. A golden flame flashed in her eyes. Xiao Yin Gij, I have my own training method. Trust me, I will catch up very quickly. After saying this, Xiao Suner took off the storage ring on her hand and handed it to Xiao Yin. Take the money inside first. Sun Er can't wait to make Xiao Yin Gij stronger. Hearing Xiao Suner's words, Xiao Yin hesitated for a moment before taking the storage ring. From Yao Lao's words, he had some understanding of Xiao Suner's background. Thus, he understood the meaning behind her words. Boss Chu, let's begin. Xiao Yin brought Chu Bei to a secluded place with an expectant look on his face. You currently have 2 stars as a combat master. To increase your cultivation, you will need a combat master pill. It is a level 3 commodity and costs 100,000 yuan per spin. Chu Bei's lips parted slightly as he waved his sleeve. Hum. The void trembled and rippled. A golden wheel emerged from the ripples, emitting a blinding light. At the center of the top, the words, Level 3 Wheel of Fortune, were particularly eye-catching. Let's start with 5 sets. Xiao Yin took out 5 million yuan from the storage ring. The system has received 50,000 willpower. The host has received 25,000 willpower. The silver needle spun. A few seconds later, 50 square boxes were arranged in an orderly manner in front of Xiao Yin. Boom! There was a uniform explosion. 50 boxes exploded at the same time. 36. Thank you for your patronage. 4 level 2 demon cores, 4 herbs, and 6 light blue spiral-shaped pills. 6. Xiao Yin glanced at the treasures and was overjoyed. As a proxy, your luck will be increased. Chu Bei patted Xiao Yan's shoulder again. Chapter 65. Looking at the 6 dou Dan floating in the air, Xiao Yin didn't hesitate. He grabbed them and threw them all into his mouth. In a split second, Xiao Yan's face turned red and the air around him became restless. Xiao Yin slowly closed his eyes and focused his mind. He began to adjust his dou qi. 8-star dou shi, success. After a few seconds, Xiao Yin opened his eyes and let out a long breath. Do you still want to continue? Chu Bei asked. Boss Chu, although 8-star dou Dan is enough to squeeze into the top 50. But since I'm already participating, why don't I fight for the championship and give you some face? After saying that, Xiao Yin took out another 2 million gold coins. Out of the 20 boxes, there were 2 dou Dan. However, because Xiao Yin was already an 8-star dou Dan, he only needed one to break through to 9 stars. If you want to enter the dou Dan, you need a Qi consolidating pill. It's the same as the dou Dan, a level 4 product. Chu Bei snapped his fingers, and the level 3 wheel disappeared. It was replaced by a level 4 wheel. 1 spin costs 250,000 gold coins. Xiao Yin Gij, there's still 15 million gold coins in your card. Use it all. Xiao Suner bit her lips before, I didn't have anywhere to spend money. I never thought that there would be a day where I didn't have enough money. Next time, I'll definitely get more money. Xiao Yin looked at Xiao Suner and nodded. The system received 150,000 willpower. The host received 75,000 willpower. 40 square boxes, 30 thank you for your patronage, 5 level 4 magic nuclei, 1 green pill, 3 red pills, and a black halo. Green Qi consolidating pill, red dou Dan. Without waiting for Xiao Yin to ask, Chu Bei already spoke. After receiving the answer, Xiao Yin took the Qi consolidating pill. As soon as the pill entered his mouth, Xiao Yin noticed that the liquid in his abdomen began to solidify until it turned into a thumb-sized green rhombus-shaped crystal. Dou Dan, the symbol of a dou Dan. Feeling the increase in strength in his body, Xiao Yin subconsciously clenched his fist. Suddenly, a dense green light covered his fist. Bang! He threw out a punch, and a powerful force slammed into an ancient tree. Looking at the dou qi cloak on the surface of Xiao Yan's body, it had completely taken shape and turned into a real armor. A moment later, Xiao Yan took another 3 dou pills and swallowed them. Xiao Yan's aura rose once again and the dou qi in his body became even more vigorous. 4 stars dou Dan, success. Boss, this is? Xiao Yan's gaze first swept over the rank 4 monster core. Without pausing, His gaze paused on the cluster of black-colored light. This is the foundation for you to win the championship tomorrow. The corner of Chu Bei's mouth carried a smile. As he spoke, he waved his hand and the black glow entered between Xiao Yan's eyebrows. Damn! Absorption technique? When Xiao Yan finished sorting out the sudden influx of information in his mind, he couldn't help but shout out loud. Absorption technique was a peerless technique created by #1 in the world. The primordial Heart Sutra was to steal other people's energy and absorb it into one's own meridians. However, after some slight modifications by the system, there were some deviations. Just like when he practiced the extreme blade storm, this cluster of light may have only entered Xiao Yan's sea of consciousness for a few seconds, but to him, it was as if he had practiced it for many years. He had already grasped every detail and every movement. 3 hours later, with the sound of the bell, the inner courtyard qualifiers ended. The 50 people who would enter the inner courtyard were successfully selected. The next day, this was destined to be the busiest day of the year in Canaan College. On Canaan Square, every corner was filled with people, including almost all the outer courtyard disciples. It's finally the finals. Today, we can feast our eyes. Who do you think will be the champion? That's hard to say. After all, in the previous qualifiers, Xuefeng, Nangong Chong, and Shi Tian didn't show their true strength. Wu Hao, Hu Jia, and Bai Shan are also very fierce. Although they are 2 batches later than Shi Tian and the others, their strength doesn't seem to be too different. Look, they're here. Just as the outer courtyard disciples on the spectator stand were discussing intensely, dozens of people walked out of the long passageway that connected to the fighting stage. Other than the 50 disciples participating in the finals, there were also a group of teachers and higher-ups from the college. Keep quiet. At this moment, a vigorous voice suddenly sounded in the square like thunder. The person who spoke was Canaan College's vice dean, Hu Gan. Just as Hu Gan's voice fell, the originally noisy square quieted down. After 7 days of the qualifiers, the inner courtyard qualifiers have successfully selected the 50 disciples who would enter the inner courtyard. Hu Gan stood in the first row of the spectator stand and swept his gaze across the surroundings. Let us congratulate them first. Clap, clap, clap. Continuous applause sounded. Although these 50 disciples all have the qualifications to enter the inner courtyard to cultivate, the inner courtyard also has a clear division of ranks. If you want to obtain better cultivation conditions in the inner courtyard, then the ranking in the finals is very important. Every increase in rank means that you can obtain better and better cultivation conditions. Speaking up to this point, Hu Gan looked at the 50 disciples who had all ascended the fighting stage. In the previous year's qualifiers, it was a round of competition. But this year, the format will be changed. Change the format? Hearing Hu Gan's words, the surrounding disciples on the spectator stand were confused. They all looked at each other, not understanding what he meant. This new format is the mixed battle elimination competition. All 50 disciples will ascend the fighting stage. Whoever can last the longest on the fighting stage will have a higher ranking. Hu Gan stroked his beard and continued, on the fighting stage, there are no restrictions. You can use any method, even group up. You only have one goal, and that is to try your best not to be kicked out of the fighting stage. Compared to the previous years, this year's format sounds even more interesting, but it seems to be a little unfair. For example, that Hu Jia is the outer dean's granddaughter. She usually makes friends with a lot of people. If they are allowed to group up, wouldn't she have an advantage? Wu Hao of the enforcement team also has an advantage. From the looks of it, the first to be eliminated is very likely to be those arrogant and solitary fellows. After Hu Gan explained the rules of the finals, a clamor once again arose in the plaza. The expressions of anticipation on the faces of the disciples became even more intense. Since we all know the rules, then let the finals begin. Hu Gan struck the large bell and the sound of the bell drifted over the entire plaza. Wait. However, just as Hu Gan's voice fell, a discordant voice sounded from the northwest corner of the spectator stand. Hua! The gazes of everyone in the plaza converged. I also want to join the finals. Under everyone's gazes, a 15 to 16-year-old youth stood up from his chair, and walked to the front row at a moderate pace. At the same time, a voice that shocked everyone came out of his mouth. Chapter 66. Who is that guy? Why haven't I seen him before? Is there something wrong with his brain? Appearing at this time, he even said that he wanted to participate in the finals. Haha, wanting to enter the finals without passing the preliminaries. I'm afraid that he is dreaming. Looking so unfamiliar, he should be a new student who is just reported. Among this batch of new students, he can be considered the most famous. Other than his strength being far ahead of the other new students, he also possesses a mysterious treasure box. Quickly look. It's Brother Xiao. F***CK. What is he trying to do? On the plaza, countless gazes focused on Xiao Yin. The expressions of the old students who had never seen Xiao Yin were as though they were looking at an idiot. The group of new students, on the other hand, were confused yet excited. On the rostrum, the two elders glanced at Xiao Yin before simultaneously looking at the vice-headmaster, Hu Gan. Hu Gan looked at Luo Tian beside him. Isn't this the monster that you brought back from Wutan City? Although he has the highest cultivation among this batch of new students, according to my understanding, he is only a one-star dosher. Even if he is compared to the weakest person participating in the finals, there is still a huge gap. I also don't understand. After interacting with him for the past few days, he is not an arrogant person. After replying to Vice-Headmaster Hu Gan, Luo Tian looked at Xiao Yin. Just as he was about to open his mouth to say something, he seemed to have discovered something and his expression suddenly became startled. Boss Chu. The next moment, Luo Tian exclaimed, Teacher Luo Tian, we meet again. Chu Bei strolled to Xiao Yan's side and waved his hand at Luo Tian, greeting him. Who is this person? He should be with the guy who is participating in the finals. However, looking at Teacher Luo Tian's expression, it seems that he is very excited because of his appearance. On the plaza, the gazes of the academy disciples turned to Chu Bei. He is the mysterious merchant that you met during your trip to Wutan City? Hearing Luo Tian's exclamation, Hu Gan's expression also changed. Luo Tian nodded and said, the nine-chain great formation was bought from him. After obtaining Luo Tian's affirmation, Hu Gan re-examined Chu Bei. After all, he had heard from Luo Tian that this merchant was a high-class dozong. Dean, I also want to enter the inner yard to cultivate. I wonder if I can also participate in the finals? Xiao Yin bowed towards Hu Gan with a respectful expression. Nonsense. Without waiting for Hu Gan to speak, Luo Tian took the initiative to rebuke. There's no harm in giving him a chance, Chu Bei said in a calm voice. Hearing this, Luo Tian was startled, and then he hurriedly said, Boss Chu, those who can enter the finals are the most outstanding disciples of the outer court, and the weakest among them is at least 8 stars. Xiao Yin is only 1 star, and this year's format is a free-for-all. If he goes up, I'm afraid he will get injured. If that's the case, you can find someone to test if he's qualified. Chu Bei crossed his arms in front of his chest and smiled. Shuebong, know your limits when you attack. Don't hurt him. Just as Luo Tian was hesitating, Vice Dean Hu Gan opened his mouth and said. After receiving the order, a man wearing white clothes immediately walked from the spectator area to Xiao Yin. Little Junior, there's always someone better than you. Don't you understand that? The man called Shuebong looked at Xiao Yin with ridicule. Today, let Senior teach you a lesson. Then Junior will thank you in advance. However, Senior, don't hurt yourself. Xiao Yin replied. Arrogant. Shuebong coldly snorted and then looked at Hu Gan. Dean, can I make my move now? Seeing Hu Gan nod his head, Shuebong took a step forward and suddenly clenched his right fist, accompanied by a low, muffled sound. An extremely oppressive sound of rushing wind whizzed out. Xiao Yan's expression did not change as he slowly rolled up his sleeves. His opponent is Shuebong, the guy who almost entered the finals. To be so calm in the face of a 7-star dosher, he really doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Seeing Xiao Yan's calm and composed manner, the group of disciples spoke out one after another. They only had one phrase to describe Xiao Yan's current performance. A newborn calf is not afraid of a tiger. If it wasn't for the dean's order, I would really want to teach you a lesson. Xuebeng frowned in disgust at Xiao Yan's indifference. As the cry fell, the dou qi in Xuebeng's body quickly surged to his right fist and his body charged forward. In almost the blink of an eye, Xuebeng had already clenched his fist and arrived in front of Xiao Yan. Sensing Xuebeng's aura, Luo Tian and Hu Gan's expressions involuntarily changed. They were already prepared to attack at any time if the situation was not right. However, as the main character, Xiao Yan was still extremely calm and composed. Under countless gazes that were filled with various emotions, Xuebeng's mighty punch was already less than 30 centimeters away from Xiao Yan. However, just as everyone thought that Xiao Yan would be forced back by this punch, Xuebeng's fist, which was already stuck to Xiao Yan's chest, suddenly stiffened, as if it had been imprisoned. Unknowingly, Xiao Yan had already extended his palm. It was this palm that had forcefully blocked Xuebeng's extraordinarily powerful right fist and its path forward. That guy actually received it. How is this possible? Xuebeng Shixiang must have gone easy on him. Witnessing this scene, the entire place was in an uproar. Shixiang, I am not as weak as you think. Please take out your full strength. Xiao Yan calmly looked at Xuebeng as the corner of his mouth lifted into a slight arc. Xuebeng seemed to still be immersed in shock. When he sensed the frightening dou qi fluctuation that suddenly rose from Xiao Yan, his pupils suddenly shrunk and shock finally flashed across his face. At this time, Xiao Yan also turned his palm into a fist. The fist carried a swift and fierce energy as it smashed towards Xuebeng. Wherever the fist passed, the space would fluctuate. An ear-piercing sonic boom sounded like muffled thunder that did not stop. Feeling Xiao Yan's fierce attack that was like a thunderbolt, Xuebeng finally recovered from his absent-mindedness. He hurriedly retreated and quickly pulled apart the distance between him and Xiao Yan. It seems that I have underestimated you. Then let me see just how strong you are. Fighting intent rose in Xuebeng's eyes as he began to display his dou qi. With a stomp of his foot, a kacha sound erupted from the hard floor. Numerous tiny cracks swiftly spread from the soles of his feet. In the next moment, Xuebeng emitted a low and deep roar. The dou qi in his body was circulated to the limit at this moment. Faint red dou qi gushed out from his body and finally formed a red dou qi cloak on the surface of his body. Subsequently, Xuebeng's figure flashed as his dou qi left behind over 10 afterimages. Red light surged violently as the afterimages merged. Xuebeng punched out once again. However, the might of this punch was tens of times stronger than before. Xuebeng Shixiang actually used his full strength. That guy seems to be stronger than we imagined. Everyone exclaimed in astonishment as they looked at the red light that shot explosively towards Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan's expression still did not change when facing Xuebeng's punch. A layer of armor slowly appeared on the surface of his body. Subsequently, he also blasted out a punch. Bang! The two fists collided. An enormous sound exploded from the point of collision. Chapter 67. On the battlefield, the hard stone slab under their feet was directly shattered into powder with a loud bang. Cracks spread out continuously like a spider web. Immediately after, a figure shot out like a cannonball and spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. His body fell to the ground and slid a few meters on the floor before coming to a stop. In the spectators' stands, countless gazes gathered. When they confirmed the person who had lost, their faces turned gray. Xuebeng lost. This result was too sudden and unexpected, causing them to be caught off guard. Luo Tian, what is going on? Didn't you say that he was only a one-star dosher? The vice principal sucked in a breath of cold air and was at a loss. At this moment, he did not have the calmness he had when he was in charge of the outer court. Instead, he was like a person who had been struck by lightning. When I brought him back to the academy, he was indeed only a one-star dosher. Instructor Ruoling can testify for me. As for the situation before us, I have no way of knowing. Luo Tian was flabbergasted. His brain had already lost the ability to think. He stood there like a piece of wood and stared blankly at the victorious Xiao Yan. Douqi armor. He is a dosher. No wonder Xuebeng lost. Is he really a new student? Finally, An uproar sounded from the crowded spectator stands. The gazes of the academy's disciples, who had looked at Xiao Yin with disdain earlier, clearly contained an additional unknown meaning when they looked at him. A Daidosher, forget about among the new students. Even when placed in the entire Jianan Outer Academy, he would be considered an outstanding person. Of course, he was qualified to participate in the finals of the inner court. Brother Xiao won. Brother Xiao is actually a Daidosher. Brother Xiao is mighty. As for the new students present, they were already shouting crazily. They were completely fanboys. On the fighting stage, the 50 students who had entered the finals looked at each other. Their faces were filled with disbelief. The strength that Xiao Yin had displayed similarly caused them to be greatly shocked. Instructor Luo Tian, do you think Xiao Yin can join the finals now? Chu Bei asked Luo Tian with a smile. At this time, Luo Tian seemed to have thought of something. He stared at Chu Bei in disbelief and said tentatively, Boss Chu, you must have improved Xiao Yan's cultivation. That's not important. Chu Bei shrugged. I'm afraid you're the only one who can do it. Luo Tian let out a long sigh of relief. The other party didn't refute his question, which undoubtedly confirmed his theory. After he finished speaking, Luo Tian turned around to look at Vice Dean Hu Gan and the two elders. Hu Gan and the two elders exchanged glances and nodded at the same time. Xiao Yin, even though you've just reported to the academy, but based on the strength you revealed earlier, we've unanimously agreed to allow you to enter the inner court and participate in the finals of the inner court selection competition this time. After announcing the results, Hu Gan once again looked at Chu Bei, hesitating to speak. Thank you, Dean. Xiao Yin first cupped his hands towards Hu Gan, then bowed towards Chu Bei. Finally, he leaped up onto the fighting stage. Brother Xiao, do your best. The group of new students stood up from their seats and cheered for Xiao Yin. Little guys, I don't need to repeat the rules of the competition, right? Do you all understand? Hu Gan's gaze swept across the 51 figures on the fighting stage. Understood. Orderly shouts sounded from the fighting stage. Since that's the case, then I announce the start of the finals. Boom. As Hu Gan's shout fell, the originally quiet fighting stage instantly exploded with dozens of different colored douqi, dazzling everyone's eyes. Immediately after, the figures on the stage flashed, one by one retreating towards the edge of the fighting stage. Since this was a big chaotic battle, everyone on the stage was an enemy except for themselves. Because of this, they were all afraid of being in the middle of the battlefield and being attacked by a group, or being attacked from behind and being blasted out of the fighting stage. Looking once again at the spectators' stand, the moment Hu Gan announced the start of the finals, excited screams and wild shouts resounded through the clouds. The group of spectating disciples almost broke their throats as they cheered for the contestants that they liked. This year's chaotic battle mode is indeed more inciting than the previous year's round and round battles. Hu Gan's face was filled with pride, as if he was satisfied with his own decision. Rumble, as the competition began, those contestants who were unable to retreat to the edge of the fighting stage at the beginning could only be forced to enter the chaotic battle first. Perhaps it was because they were afraid that the people who had already occupied the edge would suddenly attack, but even if they exchanged blows with others, they would only make contact and retreat. At the same time, their gazes were vigilantly looking at their surroundings. Since they were more or less familiar with each other, those who were weaker and were in the middle of the fighting stage gradually became the primary targets of the other people's attacks. Very quickly, those who were weaker began to be eliminated. Gradually, some people learned from experience. On the battlefield, those who were usually on good terms with each other began to get closer to each other and form groups. As more and more people found their companions, the chaos in the arena began to turn for the better. The situation in the arena also began to change. One by one, small groups began to work together and attack those who were left alone. This kind of chaotic battle is completely unfair to Brother Xiao. That's right. Those who are on good terms with each other have begun to form groups while Brother Xiao is alone. The situation is not good. If only we had Brother Xiao's strength, then we would be able to go on stage and help him. On the spectators' platform, a group of new students felt injustice for Xiao Yin. As the competition continued, a group of 4 had their eyes on Xiao Yin. Unfortunately, none of the 4 had stepped into the Dedosher class and were unable to pose any threat to Xiao Yin. In the end, the 4 of them were all blasted out of the fighting stage by Xiao Yin. With the previous example, the other groups who had originally wanted to attack Xiao Yin one by one gave up on the idea. In order to avoid unnecessary trouble, Xiao Yin directly unleashed a 4-star Dedosher Dochi Ripple, intimidating everyone in the arena. Other than Xiao Yin, there were 6 other strong auras that rushed out of the fighting stage. Each of them occupied a position. Looking over, these 6 people were Xuefeng, Nangong Chong, Shitian, Wu Hao, Hu Jia, and Bai Shan, who were favored to win the championship. What caused people to be stunned was that these 6 people actually did not form a group. They even took the initiative to attack the competitors who had formed groups. This was especially true for Xuefeng, Nangong Chong, and Shitian. They were like ferocious tigers that had left the mountain. No matter which group they met, they would use their tyrannical methods to blast them out of the arena. You are Xiao Yin, right? I saw your fight just now. It is really rare for you to be able to become a Dedosher at your age. Wu Hao appeared in front of Xiao Yin in a flash. Let me have a taste of your skills. Then, please enlighten me. Xiao Yan's expression became serious. This Wu Hao from the law enforcement squadron in front of him was above him in terms of cultivation. He had already reached the peak of 5 stars. Chapter 68. Quickly look. Wu Hao has found that new student. This new student has already entered the Dedosher class at such a young age. He can be said to be truly talented. Unfortunately, he has been targeted by Wu Hao. He can be considered unlucky. That's right. Wu Hao is different from Xuebong. He has been training in the Black Corner region all year round. At least 100 Dedosher have died in his hands. His cultivation has also reached the peak of 5 stars. I just don't know how long this new student can last in Wu Hao's hands. On the viewing platform, the group of disciples quickly noticed Wu Hao's movements. When they realized that his prey was Xiao Yin, their expressions revealed pity for Xiao Yin. Under countless gazes, Wu Hao's figure moved like a ghost. In an instant, he had already arrived in front of Xiao Yin. Sensing the frightening force that was coming toward him, Xiao Yin did not hesitate. After locking onto Wu Hao's position, he immediately unleashed an all-out attack. Bang! A low muffled sound echoed. The 2 figures separated when they came into contact. It seems that I have underestimated you. Wu Hao looked at Xiao Yin approvingly. His speed began to increase. Xiao Yan's expression was serious. His speed also increased accordingly. Bang, bang, bang. The 2 figures quickly crossed each other. In just a few breaths' time, Xiao Yin and Wu Hao had exchanged more than 10 blows. He can actually contend with Wu Hao. He has already become so strong. Looking at his Dochi Ripple, he is at least a 4-star Dedosher. The group of disciples who were watching the battle had faces of disbelief. At this moment, the situation in the other battlefields on the fighting platform had also suddenly changed. Xuefeng, Nangong Chong, Shitian, Hu Jia, and Bai Shan had actually cooperated with a tacit understanding and launched a destructive attack on those tyrannical groups. Damn it! Amidst the low roars of unwillingness, the number of people on the fighting platform decreased. When the last group was expelled, only Hu Jia, Bai Shan, and the other 2 people, Xiao Yin and Wu Hao, who were still fighting, were left on the fighting platform. There were a total of 7 people. Those fellows who were there to make up the numbers have finally all been chased away, Bai Shan said as he straightened his clothes. After this, it will be our battle. I will not show any mercy to you. Hu Jia rolled her eyes at Bai Shan. What's the rush? Wu Hao is currently locked in battle with that new student. Bai Shan pointed at the battle between Xiao Yin and Wu Hao. This new student called Xiao Yin has really given me a great shock. If Wu Hao doesn't bring out his trump card, I'm afraid we won't be able to take him down in a short time. It wasn't just Hu Jia, Bai Shan, Shitian, and the others. The gazes of the 2 elders on the rostrum, Vice Dean Hu Gan, and everyone in the spectator seats were all focused on Wu Hao and Xiao Yin. At this moment, the battle between the 2 had reached its climax. Bang! There was another loud bang. The 2 figures retreated several steps at the same time. However, this time, Wu Hao didn't immediately launch another attack. Instead, he glanced at the battle stage where only the 7 of them remained. Wu Hao, can you do it or not? That's right. You can't even take down a new student. No matter what, you are still an influential figure in the law enforcement team. Your current performance has disappointed me. Xuefeng, Nangong Chong, and Shi Tian let out mocking laughter one after another. Wu Hao ignored Shi Tian and the other two's ridicule. He only snorted coldly, and his gaze once again returned to Xiao Yan's body. Perhaps your future achievements will be above mine. However, right now, it will end here. As the low and deep voice fell, Wu Hao flipped his right hand and a completely silver-white long spear flashed out from his storage ring. The long spear trembled. Silver-colored dou qi that flickered with lightning covered the body of the spear like numerous small snakes. Accompanied by a stern shout, Wu Hao held the handle of the spear. At the same time as he swept forward, the tip of the spear quickly trembled and brought about several wisps of silver-colored light. Clank, however, just as the silver-colored light was about to pierce through Xiao Yan, a long saber appeared in the latter's hand, and he met the attack head-on. Although the long spear was blocked, Wu Hao's expression did not change in the slightest. His arm trembled once again, and a lightning-like silver-colored dou qi violently surged out along the body of the spear. Its target was Xiao Yan's head. Xiao Yan did not dodge or evade. Just as the silver-colored dou qi was only 30 centimeters away from his forehead, the boundless dou qi within his body condensed into an energy membrane diagonally above his head. Another muffled sound resounded. Layers of ripples appeared on the energy membrane due to the bombardment. However, Xiao Yan's body was still unscathed. Wu Hao's expression finally became gloomy after his attack was neutralized once again. In the next moment, he held the handle of the spear with both hands and then violently rotated it. Suddenly, the silver-colored long spear turned into a windmill. The berserk energy fluctuation even lifted the surface of the fighting stage. Its power was terrifying. Looking at Wu Hao's body, the silver-colored light on the surface of his body flourished. From afar, it looked like a silver-colored ball of light. I didn't expect that I would be forced to use this move. Regardless of whether it was Hu Jia, Bai Shan, or Xuefeng, Nangong Chong, or Shi Tian who had previously ridiculed Wu Hao, when they saw the silver light on the surface of Wu Hao's body flourish, all of their expressions changed. Their eyes were filled with astonishment. Feeling the berserk, thunderbolt-like energy condensed on the long spear in Wu Hao's hand, Xiao Yan's expression became somewhat grave. At the same time, he held the handle of the saber with both hands and began to wave it in an orderly manner. Gradually, the silver-colored long spear that had turned into a windmill in Wu Hao's hand became still again. However, at this moment, the long spear had completely transformed into a silver-colored thunderbolt spear. The handle, the body, and the tip of the spear were all flashing with lightning, accompanied by a frightening sound of thunder. Thunderstorm. Wu Hao's gaze was firmly fixed on Xiao Yan. As soon as he shouted, the spear in his hand flashed. After a short moment, the long spear pierced toward Xiao Yan. Under countless shocked gazes, a thick, silver-colored electric arc shot out from the tip of the spear. Wherever the electric arc passed, the calm, empty space appeared to be torn apart, forming a gully. Its speed was also extremely fast as it flashed past. Seeing such a frightening attack, the sound of cold air being sucked in sounded from the viewing platform. Each of them subconsciously swallowed a mouthful of saliva. This kind of attack, forget about a 4-star dosher, even a 7-star or 8-star dosher would be seriously injured if struck by it. As the spear pierced out, an additional denseness appeared on Wu Hao's face. This thunderstorm was a high Xin-class Do technique. In terms of destructive power, it could even be compared to an ordinary D-class initial stage Do technique. It was also his strongest attacking method. When he was training in the Black Corner region, he had relied on this move to make a name for himself. On the rostrum, the deputy headmaster Hu Gan was ready to make a move. He seemed to want to make a move. However, when he saw Chu Bei's carefree manner not far away, he descended into hesitation. Extreme Blade Storm. However, just as the spear that carried a frightening force was about to pierce Xiao Yan, The long saber that Xiao Yin was holding with both hands was swung out. At the same time, a cry also sounded from his mouth. At this moment, the gazes of the people who had been focused on Xiao Yin actually formed a kind of absent-minded feeling. In that instant, Xiao Yin's figure disappeared. When they once again saw Xiao Yin, the other party had already swung his saber and hacked at Wu Hao's silver-colored thunderbolt spear. Chapter 69. Swish. Xiao Yan's blade and Wu Hao's spear collided with each other. An ear-piercing sound rang out as the blade cut through the lightning. Wu Hao frowned. However, just as he was about to stab out a second time, his opponent quickly swung out a second blade. Wu Hao switched from offense to defense. However, just as the spear in front of his chest blocked the blade, a strange energy fluctuation enveloped his entire body. In the next moment, Wu Hao felt his body become light as he uncontrollably rose into the air. His entire body's do-qi was sealed, and he was unable to move. "You've lost." It was also at this moment that a light voice sounded in Wu Hao's ears. The person who spoke was Xiao Yin, who had already swung out his third blade. Compared to the previous two blades, the might of the third blade was obviously more terrifying. Even the air emitted a trembling sound. Bang! Just as the blade was about to land on Wu Hao's body, Xiao Yin flipped his right hand and smashed down with the back of the blade. With a low, muffled sound, a huge force shattered Wu Hao's armor and fiercely smashed onto his chest. Poochie! Under this huge force, Wu Hao spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot. His body flew out and landed outside the fighting stage, creating a round pit. Defeated. Wu Hao actually lost. How could it be like this? Looking at the dusty round pit, the crowd of disciples on the spectators' platform fell into a trance. When they came back to their senses, their eyes were filled with disbelief. What's with the do skill that he used just now? Why was Wu Hao in the air? At that moment, Wu Hao's do-qi seemed to have been sealed. On the fighting stage, Xuefeng, Nangong Chong, Shitian, Hu Jia, and Bai Shan looked at each other. When they looked at Xiao Yin again, they no longer had the calm attitude from before. Their expressions were filled with fear. Wu Hao's strength was on par with theirs. If they were the ones fighting, under the premise that they didn't know how to break Wu Hao's previous do skill, their result would probably be the same as Wu Hao's. "Oh my God! Brother Xiao won. Brother Xiao is mighty. Brother Xiao won." Gradually, the new students also reacted. The worry on their faces disappeared and was replaced by excitement. The excitement and joy on their faces made it seem as though they were the ones who had defeated Wu Hao and were still standing on the stage. "Do you understand?" On the rostrum, Vice Dean Hu Gan looked towards Luo Tian. Luo Tian shook his head. "Dean, please enlighten me. I'm also confused." Hu Gan narrowed his eyes and locked onto Xiao Yin as he let out a sigh. "I'll look for you again." Wu Hao crawled out of the pit and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. His eyes were full of fighting spirit. As soon as he finished speaking, Wu Hao immediately cupped his fists at Chu Bei, as if he was grateful for the other party's mercy. "Welcome to the battle." Xiao Yin smiled. Extreme Blade Storm was the first fighting technique he drew. A few days ago, he used this move to defeat Nailin Yinran, who had broken off the engagement. As his cultivation level rose, the killing power of this move also increased. Wu Hao turned towards Nangong Chong, Shitian, and the other four and sneered, "I wish you all good luck." You all saw the strange move he used to deal with Wu Hao. Thunderstorm couldn't do anything to it. Do you all have any moves to counter it? On the stage, Nangong Chong glanced at Xiao Yin and then looked at the other four. "Since it's like this, why don't we join hands and send him off the stage first? After that, the five of us can have a good fight." Hearing Nangong Chong's words, Bai Shan, Hu Jia, and the other two frowned. "What? Do you all really want to be like Wu Hao and be knocked off the stage by a new student who has just reported for less than 7 days? If that's really the case, I'm afraid you'll become a joke in the academy." Nangong Chong lowered his voice and spoke again. This time, Bai Shan, Hu Jia, and the other two were visibly moved. After a few seconds, the four looked at each other and nodded. They said in a deep voice, "Okay, then let's send him off the stage first." "What are the five of them doing?" They can't be joining hands to deal with Brother Xiao, right? F***CK. They're too shameless. Brother Xiao is so domineering. Even if you lose, you're still the champion in my heart. Watching Nangong Chong and the other four on the stage, who were moving toward Xiao Yin in a circular formation, the new students were filled with righteous indignation and cursed out loud. Are you all afraid? Below the stage, Wu Hao's face was filled with disdain as he swept his gaze over Nangong Chong and the other four and let out a cold laugh. Headmaster, from the looks of it now, the rules of the chaotic battle are very unfair to Xiao Yin. Luo Tian glanced at the battlefield and said to Hu Gan, who would have thought that this brat would have such a strange do technique? Even Wu Hao couldn't handle it. Hu Gan stroked his beard and said, from what I see, since there are still 6 people, why don't we switch back to the previous year's turn-based system? At this moment, an elder transmitted his voice. Hu Gan was stunned for a moment before he looked at Chu Bei. Don't bother. The result will be the same. Chu Bei smiled knowingly. Hearing this, Hu Gan didn't say anything, but his face revealed a questioning expression. With Bai Shan, Nangong Chong, and the other 4 joining hands, even if the opponent was a 1-star Douling, they wouldn't be at a disadvantage. Although Xiao Yan's move was strange, Hu Gan didn't believe that it was comparable to a Douling rumble. At this moment in the battlefield, Nangong Chong, Shi Tian, and the other 4 had completely surrounded Xiao Yin. The 5 of them summoned their Do Qi armors, and the Do Qi in their bodies surged out. Their powerful auras climbed to the peak. Junior, this is the battle of the seniors. It's better for you to watch from below the stage. Nangong Chong coldly looked at Xiao Yin, and a purple-colored long sword appeared in his hand. Almost at the same time, the other 4 also took out their own battle weapons. That move of his can only block one of us. Attack together. Shouts sounded and the 5 figures rushed toward Xiao Yin. At this moment, the 5 people's Do Qi armors charged their powerful Do techniques to the limit. Instantly, 5 waves of incomparably fierce energy shot toward Xiao Yin. Wherever the energy passed, the hard floor cracked and dazzling cracks spread directly to the edge of the fighting stage. On the viewing platform, regardless of whether it was the freshmen or the seniors, everyone's heart was tightly suspended. However, as the person involved, Xiao Yan's dark black eyes remained as calm as an ancient well. He put away his long sword and wisps of black ripples began to slowly seep out of his body. Finally, they gathered in his palms. Under the black ripples, the air around Xiao Yin seemed to become distorted and illusory. Seeing that the 5 figures were getting closer and closer, Xiao Yin slowly raised his arms. Then, the black ripples suddenly surged and transformed into 2 terrifying black halos. Under countless gazes in the field, the halos collided with the 5 waves of energy. Rumble. At the moment of collision, there was an earth-shattering explosion. In the explosion, the huge fighting stage shattered inch by inch. However, when the fighting stage was about to turn into ruins, the raging energy released by Nangong Chong and the other 4 seemed to have suddenly fallen into a whirlpool and disappeared quickly. The so-called whirlpool was the source of the 2 black halos in Xiao Yan's palms. Chapter 70. What's going on? Nangong Chong and Shi Tian's attacks are weakening. No, to be precise, they are being devoured. What kind of Do skill did that freshman use? On the spectator stand, a group of disciples stood up. Their gazes were fixed on the battlefield with widened eyes. Where did this guy learn all his Do skills? It's really strange. Seeing Xiao Yin resolve the attacks of Nangong Chong and the other 4 by himself, astonishment surfaced in the eyes of the 2 doyens. However, just when everyone thought that the battle would enter a stalemate, the black light emitted from Xiao Yan's palms suddenly soared. Not only did it devour the energy of the 5 terrifying attacks in an instant, it also split into several rope-like mist strips and wrapped around Nangong Chong, Shi Tian, and Hu Jia at the same time. No, impossible. The energy in my body is flowing away. What did you do to us? Soon, Nangong Chong, Shi Tian, and the other 4 discovered the abnormality in their bodies. Their energy was being devoured by the black mist uncontrollably. As the energy decreased, The energy of Xiao Yin became more and more terrifying. Finally, fear appeared on the faces of Nangong Chong and the other four. At this moment, Xiao Yan's Do Qi fluctuation had already reached or even surpassed a one-star Doling rumble. A loud sound reverberated. With Xiao Yin as the center and the black light as the carrier, a terrifying repulsive force exploded. Pu, 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 Pu. Under this huge force, Nangong Chong, Shirtian, and the other four, who were already weakened, became even more miserable. Spitting out a mouthful of blood, the five of them were sent flying in 5 different directions like cannonballs. They heavily smashed into the ground outside the fighting stage. Compared to Wu Hao, their potholes were only deeper and not shallow. One could faintly hear painful wails from them. Hiss! On the spectator stand, the group of disciples who were watching the battle with rapt attention subconsciously sucked in a breath of cold air when they witnessed this scene with their own eyes. Then, the entire place fell into a dead silence. After a long while, he won. Brother Xiao fought 1 against 5 and won. Haha, Brother Xiao is mighty and domineering. Sure enough, in the face of absolute strength, any alliance is nothing but bullshit. The group of new students finally reacted, and they were finally unable to restrain their excited hearts. One after another, they jumped down from the spectator stands and surged towards the battle arena. As for the senior students, they looked at each other in dismay. No matter what, they'd never imagined that the champion this year would actually be a new student that had reported for less than 7 days. Furthermore, it was 1 against 5, and he won the championship in a dominating manner. Luo Tian, you've really brought back an amazing guy. Vice Dean Hugon patted Luo Tian's shoulder. The meaning behind his words was hard to understand. Dean, if he is properly nurtured, this little fellow will definitely rise to the top of the continent in less than 100 years. Luo Tian clenched his fists, his eyes filled with anticipation for Xiao Yin. Dean, the competition is over. Shouldn't you announce the results? Chu Bei's indifferent voice sounded. Hearing this, Hugon nodded his head. Then, his gaze swept around the plaza. Little fellows, all of you have witnessed today's finals. I announce that the new student, Xiao Yin, is the champion of this year's competition. Nangong Chong, Shirtian, Hu Jia, Bai Shan, and Xuefeng are tied for 2nd place. Wu Hao is 7th. Following the announcement of the results, the crowd of new students on the battle arena burst into cheers that could topple mountains and overturn seas. Amidst this torrential wave of voices, the entire square was trembling. The group of senior students gazed at Xiao Yin, who was embraced in the middle, and their eyes were filled with envy and jealousy. Although Qin was only a new student, he had used his strength to announce his existence to all the outer court disciples in a high-profile manner. At this time, Nangong Chong, Bai Shan, and the other 4 had also climbed up from the deep pit. Their twitching faces showed the intense pain that came from their bodies. Under the attack from before, they directly lost their ability to fight. Damnable guy. He attacked so heavily and didn't know how to be tender to the fairer sex. He's really not a man. Ujia's pearly white teeth tightly bit her red lips. Her originally quick-witted and crafty eyes were currently filled with dense resentment. Ever since she was born, this was the first time that she'd suffered a setback in the hands of a man. More importantly, this man was younger than her. When she looked at Nangong Chong, Bai Shan, and the other 3 again, a hint of resentment flashed through their lowered eyes. The 4 of them were influential figures in the outer court and had received all kinds of flattery. However, today's battle had caused them to lose all face. Xiao Yin indifferently glanced at Nangong Chong, Bai Shan, and the other 4. He ignored them and walked toward Chu Bei. Boss Chu, I didn't disappoint you, right? Xiao Yin raised his eyebrows at Chu Bei. He was very pleased with himself. Chu Bei softly grunted in response. Little guy, what's the name of the move you just used? If I didn't see wrongly, that move of yours seemed to have swallowed their Do Qi for your own use. Hugon looked at Xiao Yin with a puzzled expression. Hearing Hugon's question, the 2 elders, the group of instructors, including the defeated Nangong Chong and Bai Shan, as well as all the disciples present, all curiously stared at Xiao Yin. Obviously, They were all eager to know the last move that Xiaoyan had used. It's called the Great Absorption Technique. It steals the strength of others and absorbs one's own strength. Xiao Yan's gaze swept over everyone and his voice was calm. Great Absorption Technique? Why have I never heard of it? What level of qi method is this? The puzzlement on everyone's faces became even more intense. Xiao Yan, where did you learn this Great Absorption Technique and the blade storm that you used to defeat Wu Hao? Hu Gan couldn't help but ask. However, when he asked this time, he glanced at Chu Bei. Sir Dean, the answer is as you think, Xiao Yan said meaningfully. As long as you have enough money, why don't you try looking for Boss Chu? Hu Gan was stunned. He looked at Chu Bei again, wanting to say something, but hesitated. The competition ended. As time passed, the group of disciples and instructors left one after another. On the way back, the topic of discussion couldn't avoid the two words Xiao Yan. 2 hours later, Vice Dean Hu Gan brought Luo Tian into an exquisite house. Boss Chu, are you satisfied with the guest room that I arranged? Hu Gan was very courteous. It's all right. Chu Bei had a smile on his face. Sir Dean, you're here to buy treasures from Boss Chu, right? Xiao Yan, who was at the side, interrupted, however. If you want to do business with Boss Chu, you must first know his rules. After saying this, Xiao Yan told Hu Gan about the process of him spinning the plates. 3 minutes later. Boss Chu, I've been stuck at the peak of Do Huang for many years. I wonder if you have a way for me to break through? After Hu Gan stated his request, he looked at Chu Bei with great anticipation. I can arrange it. Chu Bei smiled knowingly and waved his hand. With a buzzing sound, a ripple appeared in the air. A golden disc with a diameter of 1 meter appeared from the ripple, emitting a piercing light. At the top of the disc, the words Level 8 Lucky Wheel were especially eye-catching. Chapter 71. How magical! Looking at the 10 exquisite boxes on the disc, Hu Gan couldn't help but let out a sigh even though he already understood from Xiao Yan. This is the wheel of fortune that I chose for you to increase your cultivation. As for how many times you can spin out the treasure you want, it will depend on your own luck. Chu Bei looked at Hu Gan calmly. Spin it once, 2 million gold coins. We're running a small business, no bargaining. Hiss. Although he was already mentally prepared, Hu Gan still couldn't help but gasp when he heard the price with his own ears. Fortunately, he had accumulated a lot of wealth over the years. Otherwise, he could only sigh helplessly. Let's start with 10. Just as Hu Gan took out 20 million gold coins from his storage ring, a whirlpool appeared in the center of the disc and swallowed all the gold coins in an instant. The system has gained 200,000 willpower. The host has received 100,000 willpower. The system's voice then sounded in Chu Bei's mind. The next moment, the needle spun wildly. Hu Gan's face was full of anticipation. Ding! A crisp sound rang. 10 boxes flew out one after another and lined up in front of Hu Gan. Boom! Accompanied by a loud sound, the boxes exploded. 8. Thank you for your patronage. A 7th grade spirit plant and a 6th grade fire-type magical beast core. Hu Gan took the spirit plant and the magical beast core. After determining their value, a trace of disappointment flashed through his eyes. Although these two items were also treasures, they weren't worth 20 million gold coins. Dean, you've only opened one set. Don't be discouraged. Xiao Yan comforted. Boss Chu, give me another set. Hu Gan looked at Xiao Yan and reluctantly took out 20 million gold coins. 40 million was already 80% of his savings. The system has gained 200,000 willpower. The host has received 100,000 willpower. The host sales today have reached the upper limit. After the system's voice rang, a similar scene played out. 10 square boxes exploded. This time, there were 9 thank you for your patronage. However, the only box with a treasure was a golden elixir the size of a pigeon's egg. The elixir's fragrance was contained within, but didn't overflow. A gorgeous halo floated on its surface, showing that its quality was extraordinary. Boss Chu, this is? Hu Gan carefully received the golden elixir. His expression was somewhat perturbed. Don't you want to step into the Dozone class? Chu Bei smiled at Hu Gan and said, It's enough? Really? Hugon swallowed his saliva. He was so excited that his hands were trembling slightly. This pill is called the Void Comprehension Pill. If a 9 stars Do Huang consumes it, one can directly break through to the Do Zone realm. Chu Bei added. It had to be said that Hugon's luck was still off the charts. Just the second group had already obtained a genuine level 8 item. Hearing Chu Bei's words, Hugon pinched the medicinal pill and threw it into his mouth, swallowing it. Immediately, Hugon's entire body became transparent and emitted a demonic light. The air in the room let out an ear-piercing sound of friction, followed by a rumbling sound. The entire room seemed to have been blasted apart by an invisible force, and debris flew everywhere. As he felt the energy surging within his body, Hugon slowly closed his eyes. Boom! With Hugon as the center, the natural energy in the space with a diameter of 100 meters began to fluctuate intensely. The natural energy seemed to have received some kind of traction and began to wildly surge toward Hugon. What's that sound? What happened? In the distance, the two doyens from the outer academy immediately sensed the sudden abnormality and rose into the air. It's in that direction. This energy fluctuation. Don't tell me that someone is advancing to the Dozone class. Don't tell me it's that old man who? Impossible. He has already been at the peak of the Do Huang class for dozens of years. From what I see, it's likely that he won't be able to break through in this lifetime. Then who could it be? Won't we know if we go and take a look? While the two doyens were chatting, the energy fluctuation above Hugon became increasingly intense. Gradually, the energy began to wrap around Hugon in an orderly manner. Its color also began to appear multicolored. Rumble. With the flow of time, the energy that gathered around Hugon increased. The rumbling sound became increasingly deafening. It's actually Old Man Hu. Did he obtain some kind of opportunity? The two doyens from the outer academy hurried over. Their faces were filled with disbelief when they recognized the figure within the energy storm. Due to the large commotion, the disciples who were not far away also gathered over. Has the vice headmaster made a breakthrough? Haha, this is really great. Our Canaan College will have another elite dozong. The group of disciples cheered. Tears flickered in Hujia's eyes as she cried tears of joy. This day was something that her grandfather had waited for over 10 years. It had finally arrived. Under a countless number of gazes, the wild and violent energy slowly and unceasingly surged toward Hugon's body. When it reached a balance point, another loud sound was emitted. An enormous energy light pillar rose from Hugon's body and shot toward the sky. At the same time, a frightening force that caused one's heart to palpitate carried a majestic do chi and spread out. Hugon let out a loud cry. As though he had stirred the natural energy, the surrounding space slowly became distorted. Numerous crack lines swiftly spread like a spider web. A deafening sound of rushing air continuously sounded. Quickly following this, Hugon opened his eyes. His feet gently stepped on the ground, and he rose into the air. He did not have Do Chi wings, but he was still standing in the air. Is this a Do Zone? This is simply too wonderful. Hugon faced the sky and laughed out loud. His body did not move, but the majestic force that spread out was like a sharp sword that could split open the sky as it pierced through the endless sky above his head. Boss Chu, do you always feel a sense of satisfaction when you see the joy that comes from a customer's heart due to having a breakthrough in his training? Xiao Yin opened his mouth and asked when he sensed that the corner of Chu Bei's mouth had inadvertently lifted. Chu Bei shook his head. This is because I have another die-hard fan. If one were to look at the entire Do Chi continent, the Do Zone realm was the true dividing line. Only by stepping into this realm would one truly possess the conditions to roam the continent. Old Man Hu, congratulations. I don't believe that you had an epiphany. You should have encountered a great opportunity. Why don't you tell us? Let us two old fellows take another step forward. The two elders from the outer academy flew to Hugon's side and spoke one after another. Each of you lend me 50 million, and I will tell you about this opportunity. Moreover, this opportunity is also suitable for you. Hugon pretended to be mysterious. 50 million? That's almost all of my savings over the years. Why do you suddenly need so much money? Could it be that you want to participate in the auction? One of the elders was shocked. Don't talk nonsense. I'm just asking you if you want to lend it to me or not. If you don't lend it to me and miss this opportunity, don't blame me. Hugon laughed. The two elders looked at each other. After hesitating for a moment, they threw a storage ring to Hugon at the same time. After counting the amount, Hugon moved to the side of the two people's ears and said a few words in a low voice before flying toward Chu Bei. After hearing Hugon's narration, the two elders could not help but twitch the corner of their mouths. Their faces instantly became the color of pig liver. When their gazes turned to Chu Bei, they were filled with doubt and disbelief. Chapter 72. Boss Chu, thank you very much. Hugon flew to Chu Bei's side and bowed politely. If it wasn't for you, I'm afraid that I wouldn't be able to step into the Dozong realm in this lifetime. Other than gratitude, Hugon's eyes were also filled with respect. Even though he had stepped into the Dozong realm, he realized that he still couldn't see through Boss Chu. What does Vice Headmaster mean? Don't tell me that the reason he broke through to the Dozong realm is because of that person. Where did he come from? The disciples not far away looked at Chu Bei and became even more curious. You provide the money and I provide the goods. This is a transaction. You don't owe me, and you don't need to thank me. Chu Bei looked at Hugon and said indifferently, Boss Chu, do you think we can continue? Hugon waved the two storage rings in his hand. Let's stop here for today. Come and find me tomorrow. Chu Bei's voice was calm. Hugon was stunned at first. Then, he looked at the ruined house and said, I'll arrange a new house for you. The next day, in the morning, the 51 disciples who were qualified to enter the inner academy, including Xiao Yin, entered the book collection pavilion under Hugon's lead. They each chose different qi methods according to their ranking. In the afternoon, Hugon came to visit Chu Bei. The first time, 20 million, 10 thanks for your patronage. The second time, 20 million, 9 thanks for your patronage and a level 6 water-type magical beast core. The third time, 20 million, 8 thanks for your patronage and 2 thumb-sized green pills. 60 million gold coins. Chu Bei had reached the upper limit of the gold coins he sold. The system obtained 600,000 willpower, and he received 300,000 willpower in return. At first, Hugon thought that he had bad luck after spending 40 million gold coins. However, when the 2 green pills were opened and he learned of their functions, a smile blossomed on his face. Huaxiang Do Qi Pill. Swallowing 1 pill would increase one's Do Qi by 50%. Swallowing 2 pills would increase one's Do Qi by 100%. It could increase one's Do Qi by up to 6 times and last for 4 hours. With Hugon's 1-star Dozong strength, he would be able to fight with a 3-star Dozong if he were to consume 2 Huaxiang Do Qi pills at the same time. In the afternoon, he began to arrange for the 51 disciples to enter the inner court. Boss Chu, we'll be heading to the inner court soon. I'm a little excited for some reason. In the room, Xiao Yan's face was filled with excitement. Chu Bei smiled but did not reply. In reality, he was looking forward to entering the inner academy even more than Xiao Yan. After all, the goal of his trip was the Fallen Heart Flame, and the Fallen Heart Flame was in the inner academy. 15 minutes later, when Chu Bei, Xiao Yan, and Xiao Suner arrived at the gathering place, there were already several disciples waiting for them. Looks like everyone is here. After a long while, Hugon flew over from nearby. After he finished counting the number of disciples, he said in a loud voice, Little fellows, all of you are well-known figures in the outer court. Very soon, all of you will embark on your journey to the inner courtyard. There, you will be able to stimulate your potential to the greatest extent. I guarantee that in less than a year, all of you will undergo a complete transformation. The inner court is where the core of Canaan College is located. Due to its confidentiality, even the instructors most likely do not know its exact location. Therefore, I will personally lead the way for all of you from now on. Hugon's loud and clear voice sounded beside the ears of all the disciples. Then, he whistled. In the distant blue sky, 12 black figures flew over. Griffins. When the black figures approached and the disciples saw their faces clearly, they cried out in surprise. Not long after, 10 huge griffins stopped in front of the group of disciples. "Little fellows, embark on a new journey." Hugon spoke again and took the lead to fly onto the back of one of the griffins. Seeing this, the disciples also jumped onto the griffins one after another. As for Xiao Suner, she did not have the qualifications to enter the inner court in the beginning. It was Chu Bei who opened his mouth that Hugon made an exception to add such a quota. When everyone was in position, the griffins flapped their wings and a gale surged. Could it be that the inner court is hidden in this continuous mountain range? Xiao Yin muttered as he looked at the main peak of Canaan College that disappeared at the end of his line of sight. Hu Jia stole a glance at Chu Bei and said to Xiao Yin, "I heard grandfather say that the location of the inner court is extremely secretive. Even if the students who came out of the inner court wanted to return, it would be very difficult for them to find the location of the inner court if they did not have a dedicated griffin to lead the way." After flying for half an hour, the griffin finally slowed down and began to descend. "There's nothing here." Xiao Yin looked down and furrowed his brows. Other than a bottomless mountain stream, the surroundings were still endless greenery. Not to mention the inner court, there was not even a shadow of a person. The other disciples also looked at each other, their faces full of confusion. Hugon seemed to understand the confusion in everyone's hearts, but he did not explain and continued to let the griffins descend. Soon, the flock of griffins landed on an open space in the mountain stream. "Grandfather, this can't be the inner court, right? But there's nothing here." Finally, Hu Jia could not help but ask, if the inner court was so obvious, why would it be so hard to find? Hugon said with a proud smile. Then, under the gazes of several people, he formed a strange seal with his hands and pushed it forward. Immediately, a strange scene appeared. Ripples appeared in the originally calm empty space. When the ripples dissipated, a large silver door that was 70 to 80 feet tall appeared in everyone's line of sight. Is this the entrance to the inner court? Looking at the large silver door that had appeared strangely, the disciples were shocked. Obviously, they did not expect that this open space would hide such a mystery. "Follow me in." Hugon pushed open the large silver door and saw that the scenery behind the door was not much different from the mountain stream they were in. However, when the last disciple also stepped through the large door, the large silver door disappeared strangely. "Dean Hugon, I heard that a special good seedling appeared in this year's batch. Moreover, this seedling is a new student who has just reported and won the championship so powerfully. Where is he?" Just at this moment, 3 middle-aged men flew over from the depths of the forest. On the chest area of their clothes, there was a badge that was engraved with a tower-shaped pattern. "Let's lead the way for these little fellows first. They can't wait to see the inner court." Hearing Hugon's words, the 3 middle-aged men could only turn around and lead the way. After walking along the forest for a distance and going over a hill, the group of disciples saw an extremely large sunken basin. In terms of shape, this basin was like an enormous meteorite that had fallen from the sky and smashed into it. Inside the basin, there were many tall buildings. On top of every building, there were several black shadows flashing and jumping. They intertwined and chased each other as if they were sparring. As expected of the inner court, I feel that everyone is very strong. Xiao Yan's face was filled with fanaticism and battle intent rose in his eyes. When he looked at Chu Bei again, his gaze was already sweeping around as if he was looking for something in the basin. Chapter 73. After entering the inner academy, other than Chu Bei, Hugon gave every new disciple a new student badge, after which he disbanded the group and allowed the disciples to form their own groups to tour the inner academy. Just as Chu Bei's group arrived in front of a pavilion, they discovered a number of disciples rushing toward a certain direction like a swarm of bees. From the scattered conversations, Chu Bei found out the reason behind it. Within the inner academy, there was a strong ranking. Just a moment ago, 2 disciples who were ranked in the top 10 of the strong ranking had begun their daily spar. "Boss Chu, shall we go and take a look?" Xiao Yan's face revealed an expectant expression. Chu Bei nodded his head and immediately walked toward the direction where the crowd was rushing toward. Very quickly, Chu Bei's group arrived at a public square. There was an arena in the middle of the public square. On the arena, there were two figures facing each other as they waited solemnly. The surroundings of the arena were crowded with spectators, and it was extremely noisy. Do you think Qian and Mo will succeed in his challenge this time? Although the two of them are at the peak of the Doling class, Qian and Mo has challenged Yin Hao more than 3 times in this half a year and has not succeeded. This time around, he will probably end up in failure. Haha, I also think so. However, this time around, Qian and Mo seems to be very confident. Perhaps, he might really be able to defeat Yin Hao. Amidst the intense discussions, Chu Bei's group squeezed into the inner circle. Fatty Qian, do you really want to sit in the 5th position so badly? Can you have some self-awareness? On the arena, a young man let out a sigh. Humph, I am no longer that young man from before. Another young man snorted coldly. Forget it, I'll torture you again. As Yin Hao's mocking voice sounded, the two people on the arena drew their weapons at the same time. Yin Hao's weapon was a huge jet-black hammer, while Qian Mo's weapon was a large circular sawtooth-like golden object. The sharp sawtooth contained a penetrating cold glint. Fight! Qian and Mo took the lead to attack. As the cry sounded, a dense do qi surged out from his body. His arms suddenly shook and the weapon in his hand shot toward Yin Hao like a golden lightning bolt. Bang! Almost at the same time, the jet-black hammer in Yin Hao's hand violently smashed onto the ground. In an instant, a crack that was as thick as an arm swiftly spread, following which, an extremely powerful deep yellow energy shot out explosively from the crack and coincidentally collided with the golden lightning bolt that flashed by it, shaking it. Fatty Qian, you haven't improved at all. After dispersing Qian Mo's attack, Yin Hao laughed loudly. Stop looking. Quickly run. The brute force king is here. However, just as Qian and Mo was about to launch another attack, a shrill cry filled with terror resounded from not far away. The do-do-dos does. Do. Do-do-do. Do-do-do. Do-do-do-do. Do-do. Do. Do. Do of do-do of the do-do. Brute force king? Do-do of the do of do. Xiao Yin muttered as he watched everyone gather in one direction. At the same time, he curiously looked in the direction where the sharp cry had originated from. Not long after, a young man with a face full of fear ran at full speed, following which, a petite figure casually walked over. It was a little girl dressed in white who was only a meter tall. She was about 12 or 13 years old and had a head of light purple hair that reached her waist. With her fair and tender cheeks and big, black and watery eyes, she looked like a doll carved from jade. This is the so-called brute force king? Noticing the fear in everyone's eyes when they looked at the girl in white, Xiao Yin was speechless. In his opinion, the brute force king who could cause so many people to be afraid should be at least 2 to 3 meters tall. Unexpectedly, it turned out to be a harmless little girl. Looking back at Chu Bei, when he saw the little girl in white, the corners of his mouth unconsciously curled into a smile. Xiao Yin Gij. Look at the golden herb in her mouth. Xiao Suner seemed to have noticed something and tugged at Xiao Yan's arm. Diamond Poo? Xiao Yin recognized the golden herb in the little girl's mouth. Just as he was about to say something, the herb was crushed by the little girl's teeth with a crack. How? How is this possible? Hearing the crisp chewing sound, Xiao Yin looked at the little girl's mouth, which looked like she was eating snacks, and swallowed his saliva subconsciously. His face was full of shock. Diamond Poo. Although its grade was not high, its body was as strong as black iron. Ordinary flames could not do anything to it. However, the little girl in white chewed it easily with her teeth as if she was eating candy. Boss Chu, is this girl still human? Xiao Yin took a deep breath and muttered, No. Chu Bei replied calmly, What? She's really not human. What is that? A monster? Xiao Yin was stunned at first, then he was dumbfounded. He only said it casually because he was shocked. He did not expect that the other party was really not human. After saying that, Xiao Yin looked at the little girl again. His eyes were filled with vigilance and fear. Her original body is a magical beast, but she has transformed into a human. Chu Bei added, A transformed magical beast? Could it be that she has already entered the Do Huang realm? Xiaoyan's mouth was wide open. Chu Bei shook his head. No, she only ate the transformation grass. So that's how it is. Xiaoyan nodded in understanding. The transformation grass was a rare spiritual plant in the forest. Magical beasts below the Do Huang realm could take human form after eating it. However, only those who had reached the Do Huang realm could turn back into magical beasts and freely switch between the two forms. Not long after, Xiaoyan seemed to have thought of something and looked at Chu Bei in surprise. Boss Chu, how do you know all this? Did you know her before? Chu Bei smiled knowingly. When you are strong enough, you can predict the future of all things in the world, not to mention a transformed magical beast that is not even a Do Huang. Hearing this, Xiaoyan pulled the corner of his mouth and did not ask any more questions. Are the two of you sparring? My hands are itching. Bring me along. After the white-clothed girl finished chewing the diamond bodhi, she leaped onto the stage and showed Yin Hao and Qianemo her neat white teeth. Looking at the white-clothed girl's pure smile, Yin Hao and Qianemo shuddered. You can't run. I will chase after whoever runs. Looking at the two people who were constantly retreating, the white-clothed girl waved her white fist. Her voice was like an oriole's, filled with a thick threat. Hearing the white-clothed girl's words, Yin Hao and Qianmo's faces turned the color of pig liver. Around the stage, the disciples who had scattered in an uproar gathered together. Looking at the white-clothed girl on the stage, they could not help but shrink their necks. At the same time, all of them mourned for Yin Hao and Qianmo in their hearts. Chu Bei, on the other hand, was looking at the white-clothed girl with a face full of smiles. He sized her up from head to toe without any hesitation. Come, attack together. Hit me. The white-clothed girl waved her hand toward her two opponents without any fear. Senior Ziyin, you must be gentler when you attack. If you are serious, I'm afraid that my body will turn into minced meat on the spot. Yin Hao and Qianmo exchanged glances with each other. They had difficulties in their hearts that they could not voice. Their cultivations were at the peak of the Doling class. Although they were respectively 5th and 6th on the strong ranking, the gap between them and the number 1 monster on the strong ranking was like heaven and earth. In the last strong ranking grand competition, they had personally witnessed this brute force king beating Lin Xiaoya, who was ranked 2nd, into a meat bun. There were even rumors recently that this brute force king was about to break through to the Do Huang class. What are you afraid of? I just want to help you loosen your muscles and bones. Ziyin had an evil smile on her face as she looked at Yin Hao and Qianmo. She continued, if you don't attack, I will make the first move. Hearing Ziyin's words, Yin Hao let out a long sigh, after which, the Do Qi in his body swiftly surged. The skin on the surface of his body instantly became like a rock, emitting a grayish-white color. He took a step forward. With a bang, he threw out the jet-black metal hammer with both hands. At almost the same time, Qianmo bent his waist and exerted his strength. The weapon in his hand also shot towards Ziyin at a tricky angle like lightning. Faced with these two sharp attacks, Ziyin did not dodge. Instead, she casually extended her two small white hands. Duang. Accompanied by two low muffled sounds, Ziyin accurately and easily caught Yin Hao's and Qianmo's weapons. Under countless gazes, Ziyin's white hands seemed to have turned into unbreakable welding pliers. No matter how Yin Hao and Qianmo pulled, they were unable to wrest back control of their weapons from her hands. Shio. At this moment, Ziyin's figure strangely disappeared amid the sound of breaking air. Yin Hao and Qianmo's pupils abruptly shrank as a sense of fear surged in their hearts. However, before they could do anything, the petite figure that disappeared appeared in front of them. Bang! In the next moment, under their terrified gazes, a seemingly weak fist pressed against their chests. Two mournful screams lingered in everyone's ears. On the stage, two figures were shot out like cannonballs. After flying for dozens of meters in the air, they heavily smashed into the ground. It feels really good. Ziyin clapped her hands with a satisfied look on her face. In the distance, Yin Hao and Qianmo were wailing in the deep pit, not daring to get up. The crowd of onlookers wanted to laugh when they saw Ziyin, who was acting like a little adult on the stage. However, due to fear, they remained silent from the beginning to the end. Among the spectators, the only one who had a natural expression was Chu Bei. "Are you laughing at me?" At this moment, Ziyin also noticed Chu Bei, who was grinning, and her beautiful brows immediately furrowed. This guy's guts have grown. Could it be that he has never heard of the brute force king's name? Speaking of which, this guy looks a little unfamiliar. I've never seen him before. The crowd's gaze followed Ziyin and shifted to Chu Bei. "Come up. My hands are itching again." Seeing that Chu Bei did not respond, Ziyin shouted angrily, "Sigh, another pitiful person." As soon as Ziyin's voice rang out, the crowd of onlookers nearby looked at Chu Bei and sympathized with him. At this moment, Yin Hao and Qianemo finally dared to climb out of the pit and quietly mixed into the crowd. When they looked at Chu Bei, there was no gloating in their eyes, only pity. "Good for you. Can't you hear me?" Ziyin placed her hands on her waist as her flat chest trembled with anger. "Since you're not coming up, I'll go down." With that, Ziyin jumped down the stage. Chapter 74. When you see the title, aren't you all caught off guard? This is the decision I have been hesitating about for a day. Lord Beiji is an author and a reader. From a reader's point of view, my favorite chapters of a book are the closing comments and closing comments. Therefore, when Lord Beiji posted this chapter, many readers clicked on it even if they didn't read the latest chapter. Here is the main text. Lord Beiji has always been a writer with a large volume of books. However, the 2 chapters per day for the new book is a little frustrating. The editor said, "Don't you want to release a lot of chapters? Then release it. Once it's released, you can choose how many chapters per day you want." The editor also said, "If it's released, you won't have a chance with Sanjiang and Force. Given the choice, I chose the former. Releasing 2 chapters per day is not my style. I just want to let you all enjoy reading it every day. Therefore, tomorrow, which is 52 a.m., will be released." Old readers who have followed me from the previous book know that Lord Beiji will not ask for recommendation tickets again after the new book release. Today is the last day of the new book release. Lord Beiji begs you for the last time to give this book a recommendation ticket. If you have already given it a recommendation ticket, I hope you can give it to this book tomorrow. Of course, to say something sad, after tomorrow's release, there will be some readers who will leave. It is inevitable. Lord Beiji will continue to learn during the process of writing until he writes a book that everyone will like. Let's talk about the results of this book. Chidian started with a trial run and went through a series of promotions. Currently, it has 8,500 favorites. Genesis has been promoted all the way and has 20,000 plus favorites. It is ranked 12th in the free books list. Let's talk about the content of this book. Some people scolded it, some loved it. Regardless of whether it was the former or the latter, at least they have read this book. I remember a reader from the previous book who scolded me from the beginning to the end. I didn't fight back. Why? This guy has been subscribing all the way. When I finished the book, he even tipped me 10,000 coins. Some readers suggested that a businessman who only knows how to spin dishes is too monotonous. How can he be a businessman? Don't worry, the book has just started. The pace has to be steady. There will be more and more functions in the future. If I start the book too early, how can I write the later chapters? I'm afraid I can't hold on. There were also some readers who were dissatisfied with the part where the Jialai clan was killed. Actually, when the novel was written, it was during the worst period of the epidemic. In the novel, the Jialai family also used poison. In order to eliminate the poison, when he looked back, that part was indeed a little too much, but it shouldn't be that hard to accept. Let's talk about the updates after they were published. The readers who followed me from the previous book know that I still owe the Old Book Alliance Master a lot of updates. As long as they discover this book one day, I will make up for the lack of updates in this book. After it was published, it was guaranteed to be at least 2 updates. Based on the foundation of guaranteed updates, the updating principle was, before the end of August, every 2,000 Chidian coins will be rewarded with an additional chapter. For every 100 increments, I'll add an update. Every increase of 100 in the monthly ticket will add one more update. Starting from the day after tomorrow, the priority will be to return the reward for the new book. From tomorrow onwards, you will see a new Lord Ba Jie. I hope that all of you will continue to support this book with a genuine subscription. Lord Beiji will also do his best to write this book well and not disappoint all of you. At the end of his speech, begging for one last recommendation, Chapter 75. Little girl, listen to my advice. You can't hit just anyone. Leave now and you won't suffer. Xiao Yan's gaze landed on Ziyin. He could not help but open his mouth to persuade her. I'm so angry. However, Ziyin didn't leave after hearing Xiao Yan's words. Instead, her aura became stronger. Where did these guys come from? Not only did they not run away, but they even dared to provoke the brute force king. They really don't want to live. Even if the elders are here, I'm afraid they can't protect them. Look, it's a freshman card. It turns out that they were selected from the outer court this year. No wonder they even dared to provoke the brute force king. Noticing the cards on Xiao Yin and Xiao Suner, the sympathy and pity on the onlookers' faces became even more intense. Thump, thump, thump. Ziyin strode toward Chu Bei. With every step, the bluestone bricks under her feet would shatter inch by inch, leaving a deep footprint. When she was about 2 meters away from Chu Bei, Ziyin suddenly accelerated and punched out. Ziyin was extremely fast. Wherever her fist passed, the friction with the air made an ear-piercing sound. In the face of Ziyin's attack, Chu Bei's expression didn't change at all, and he was still smiling. Seeing that Ziyin's fist was less than half a meter away, Chu Bei stretched out his right hand, and the green and red light in his palm flowed. He gently patted out. There was no expected collision sound. There was only a shocking scene. When Ziyin's fist landed on Chu Bei's palm, there seemed to be a strange power in the latter's palm that drew and removed the power from Ziyin's fist. This directly caused Ziyin's body to suddenly lean forward and sweep past Chu Bei's right hand. What happened just now? After Ziyin's punch missed, she steadied herself and asked. Chu Bei just smiled and didn't respond. Damn it! Ziyin bit her lip, and the anger on her white and tender face became more intense. She attacked again at a faster speed, and the aura on her fist became more terrifying. However, a similar scene happened again. She had clearly hit him, but there was an indescribable force that caused her power to leak out and hit somewhere else. Ziyin punched the air again. Because the speed was too fast, she almost fell to the ground. Why is that? After several failed attempts, Ziyin pouted and glared at Chu Bei angrily and unwillingly. Haha. Seeing this, Xiaoyin finally couldn't help but laugh out loud. Hearing the laughter, Ziyin turned her eyes to Xiaoyin. I can't hit him, but I don't believe that I can't hit you. Hearing this, Xiaoyin's laughter came to an abrupt end. When he met Ziyin's murderous gaze, he inexplicably shuddered. Boss Chu, help! Xiaoyin quickly hid behind Chu Bei. He did not want to taste a punch from a peak Do king. Ziyin threw a punch at him with terrifying power. This time, Chu Bei still stretched out his right palm. However, the green and red lights flowing in his palm changed and suddenly merged together. At first, this strange force first diverted the power on Ziyin's fist, but then it did not let Ziyin's body lean forward. Instead, it suddenly erupted with a strong rebound force that fell back on Ziyin's fist. Bang! There was a muffled sound. Ziyin's petite body drew a beautiful arc in the air and smashed on the ground. Accompanied by a painful howl, Ziyin quickly got up from the ground. Her eyes were filled with anger, but she was at a loss. The brute force king was defeated. Oh my god, did I see it wrong? Where did that guy come from? I can't even feel the fluctuation of his do chi. What a strange do chi. Yeah, I keep feeling that he defused the brute force king's attack. The crowd of spectators broke out into discussion, their faces filled with disbelief. I don't believe that you can defuse it every time. Ziyin walked around Chu Bei twice and snorted angrily. Immediately, with a loud shout, a fierce and violent do chi gushed out of her body and condensed on her fists. After finishing the accumulation, Ziyan's figure disappeared again and directly appeared in front of Chu Bei. However, Chu Bei seemed to have predicted Ziyan's position. At the same time, he slowly stretched out his right hand. Bang! A familiar scene happened again. Ziyan's power was first strangely dissipated, and then an even more powerful counterforce suddenly came to her. Ziyan flew backward and created a new big pit on the ground. This time, Ziyan quickly got up and then rose into the air. She appeared above Chu Bei's head and swooped down. Bang! The result was the same. In an unwilling roar, Ziyan attacked Chu Bei again and again. 3 bangs, 4 bangs, 5 bangs, 6 bangs. Unfortunately, the ending kept repeating itself and never changed in the slightest. Looking around, there were already deep pits everywhere. Ziyan's hair was messy, her clothes were in tatters, and her delicate white face was covered in dust. At first glance, she looked like a little madwoman begging for money. Even so, Ziyan did not give up. It was as if she was determined to fight Chu Bei. In the end, perhaps because Chu Bei started to increase his strength, Ziyan started to suck in air, and the speed of her attacks slowed down. A look of fear appeared in her big, black eyes. Not far away, the inner yard disciples who had witnessed the whole scene were already dazed and numb. Their dazed expressions were like a bolt from the blue as they stared blankly at the battlefield. Yin Hao and Qian Mo were dumbfounded. They looked at each other and were speechless. When Ziyan first found Chu Bei, they sympathized with Chu Bei. Who would have thought that the same experience would lead to such a different outcome? Looking at Ziyan, who no longer dared to attack, the two could not help but feel happy. They looked at Chu Bei with eyes full of admiration and respect. Xiao. At this moment, a sound of rushing air sounded from afar. Hu Gan came over after hearing the sound. Seeing Hu Gan standing in the air with his hands behind his back, Ziyan was first stunned before her face was filled with joy. Old man Hu, you have broken through to the Do Zone class. Ziyan shouted excitedly as if she had found a helper. She pointed at Chu Bei and said, Quick, help me deal with this guy. Beat him until his teeth fall out. Nonsense. Just as Ziyan was fantasizing about how she could borrow Hu Gan's hand to trample on Chu Bei, Hu Gan's reprimand sounded beside her ear. In the next moment, Hu Gan landed in front of Chu Bei. Old man who are you calling Hu? Ziyan was just about to reprimand Hu Gan when she saw Hu Gan's attitude towards Chu Bei. She swallowed the words that were about to come out of her mouth because she was stunned. Boss Chu, Ziyan is still a child. If she has offended you, I hope that you will not hold it against her. Hu Gan was extremely polite. Who exactly is he? The vice headmaster is actually so respectful to him. We actually foolishly thought that he was also a new student. Now that I think about it, it is really laughable. How can an existence that can trample on the brute force king so casually be an ordinary person? Hearing Hu Gan's words, the expressions of the disciples present became even more stunned. They were all once outstanding people in the outer academy and knew the temperament of the vice headmaster. Other than the headmaster, they had never seen the vice headmaster be so respectful to anyone. Why would I hold it against her? I really like her. Chu Bei smiled as he looked at little Ziyan. As for Ziyan, when she met Chu Bei's seemingly loving gaze, she inexplicably shuddered. Ziyan, come over here and admit your mistake. Hu Gan turned around and coldly shouted, No way. Little Ziyan stubbornly raised her head. Hu Gan shook his head and then walked to little Ziyan's side. He lowered his head and whispered something into her ear. Ziyan was startled at first. Then, she looked at Chu Bei and widened her eyes. In the end, she obediently walked to Chu Bei's side and bowed. Moreover, she sincerely admitted her mistake. What are you all looking at? Quickly disperse. Along with Hu Gan's cold shout, the disciples who were watching from afar dispersed in confusion. Obviously, they were all very curious about what Hu Gan had said to Ziyan that caused her attitude towards Chu Bei to change 380 degrees. Big brother Xiao Yin, what do you think the vice headmaster said to the brute force king? After Hu Gan left with little Ziyan, Xiao Suner looked at Xiao Yin with a curious expression. In my opinion, it must be related to Boss Chu. Speaking until here, Xiao Yin seemed to have thought of something. He quickly tilted his head and looked at Chu Bei. Boss Chu, the move you used to deal with the brute force king just now seemed a little familiar. Drawing and shifting the enemy's strength, changing the yin and yang qi, borrowing the enemy's strength to fight the enemy's strength. It's called heaven and earth. Chu Bei looked at Xiao Yin and said indifferently, "This skill came from the heaven sword and dragon saber. It was the Ming cult's treasure." Chu Bei had spent 30,000 power of will to obtain it. After walking in circles for another quarter of an hour, they finally stopped. Chu Bei stopped. 100 meters away, there was a huge sunken piece of land. In the middle of the sunken piece of land, an extremely huge black tower was buried deep underground. Only the tip of the tower was exposed above the ground. A tower buried underground? Could it be that this is the blazing sky chi refining tower that the vice headmaster mentioned can speed up cultivation? Xiao Yan's gaze locked on the tip of the tower as he exclaimed. At this moment, there were several disciples lining up around the tip of the tower to enter. Perhaps it was due to the rules, but these disciples were extremely quiet during the process of entering. There's a bit of a riot. Chu Bei narrowed his eyes and muttered to himself. Even though there was a distance between them, he could feel the blazing energy that permeated from the tower from time to time. It was sometimes strong and sometimes weak. "Boss Chu, should we enter the tower to take a look?" Xiao Yan looked at Chu Bei expectantly. Since we are in someone else's territory, we have to do things according to their rules. Chu Bei patted Xiao Yan's shoulder lightly. "Let's wait until you've been allocated the fire ability before entering the tower." The sun was setting in the west. The curtain of night gradually approached. When Chu Bei had just returned to the residence that Hu Gan had arranged for him and was about to have a good rest, a petite figure rushed into the room with a swoosh. It was a little girl wearing a pink dress. She was about 12 or 13 years old. Her light purple hair naturally fell to her waist. Her white and tender cheeks were like carved jade. People couldn't help but want to kiss, pinch, and play with them. Looking at the uninvited girl in the pink dress, Chu Bei's face revealed a playful expression. The girl was the brute force king, Zi Yin, who had been ravaged by Chu Bei during the day. Chapter 76. Little girl, why did you come to my room so late at night? Chu Bei sat on the edge of the bed and looked at Zi Yin with interest. Could it be that you didn't spar enough during the day? Of course not. Zi Yin pouted. I'm not looking for abuse. I'm here to buy something from you. Zi Yin moved a chair and sat in front of Chu Bei. She continued, "Old man who told me that he was able to break through because of you. He also said that you have a treasure that can allow me to change my original form freely. The premise is that I have enough money." At this point, Zi Yin waved her small white hand. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A pile of scattered items was spread out on the bed. Looking carefully, there were high-level magic cores, elixirs that emitted a medicinal fragrance, cultivation methods, fighting skills, and even weapons. I don't have much money. I stole these from the treasure pavilion. Zi Yin looked at Chu Bei expectantly. Are these enough to exchange for a treasure that allows me to change my original form freely? If not, I can steal more. Looking at Zi Yan's serious expression, Chu Bei couldn't help but laugh. It should be enough. But didn't old man who tell you that I'm closed today? Okay, then I'll wait here until tomorrow. After a short conversation, Zi Yin found that Chu Bei wasn't as difficult to get along with as she thought. She jumped onto the bed and occupied a small space. Chu Bei's mouth twitched slightly. After a long night of sleep. Wake up. At dawn, Chu Bei was awakened from his sleep by a small hand. Let's start. Chu Bei glanced at Zi Yin and waved his hand. The level 7 lucky wheel appeared. While Zi Yin was shocked, Chu Bei briefly explained the rules of the wheel. The level 7 lucky wheel that Chu Bei chose had a product called Beast Spirit True Water. Not only could it allow Zi Yin to change back to her original form freely, it could also greatly increase her defense. Big brother boss, take these and use them to spin the plates. Little Zi Yin looked at Chu Bei ingratiatingly and took the initiative to push the stolen items in front of Chu Bei. Buzz! A vortex appeared in the center of the wheel, instantly swallowing the scattered objects. The system has gained 200,000 willpower points. The host has gained 100,000 willpower points. Almost at the same time, the system's voice sounded in Chu Bei's mind. The next moment, the needle began to spin. Soon, 20 square boxes were floating side by side. Under Ziyan's expectant gaze, all the square boxes exploded. 18 thank yous for your patronage, a green covered book, and a sky blue jade bottle. How to raise a loli. Ziyan took the green book, glanced at the big words on the cover, and threw it into the storage ring with disinterest. Then, he took the sky blue jade bottle and sniffed it. Little guy, you're pretty lucky, Chu Bei said. Big brother boss, this is the treasure that can turn me back into my original form. Hearing Chu Bei's words, Ziyan was so excited that her hands were trembling. Won't you know after drinking it? Chu Bei said with a smile. Ziyan nodded repeatedly, and she didn't hesitate in the slightest to drink the liquid within the jade bottle. In just a few seconds, Ziyan's body began to change. Her body gradually became bigger. Her hands became sharp claws, horns grew on her head, and her body was covered with purple scales. Ha! I really changed back. Little Ziyan waved her claws and changed back into her human form, then back to her original form. Looking at the jubilant Ziyan, the corners of Chu Bei's mouth unconsciously curled up. He didn't expect an infant ancient void dragon to be so cute. Whoosh! At this moment, Hugon landed in front of the door. When he saw Ziyan, who had changed back into her original form, his expression suddenly froze. Old man Hu, I did it. I really have to thank you for this. I've decided not to pull your beard in the future. Ziyan was extremely happy. Boss Chu, based on your experience, do you know what kind of magical beast Ziyan is? Hugon asked. You'll have a chance to know. Chu Bei didn't answer his question. Since that's the case, let's spin the wheel. As he spoke, Hugon took out his storage ring. Chu Bei nodded and changed the level 7 wheel to a level 8 wheel. The system has received 600,000 willpower. The host has received 300,000 willpower. 60 square boxes, 56, thank you for your patronage. 1 level 7 spiritual pearl, 2 Huaxiang battle energy pills, and 1 battle zone pill. Boss Chu, looks like I've earned a lot again. Hugon carefully took the treasure. He was currently a 1-star battle zone. With this battle zone pill, he could instantly become a 2 stars battle zone. In addition, he also had 4 Huaxiang battle energy pills. If he consumed all of them, he could even fight a 6-star battle zone within 4 hours. After Hugon left with Ziyan, Chu Bei opened the system interface. In the past 2 days, Hugon had provided him with a considerable amount of willpower. Including Xiao Yin, Ziyan, and the previous ones, he currently had a total of 1,335,000 willpower. For the Battle King realm, it required 200,000 willpower to exchange for a 1-star cultivation. For the Battle Emperor realm, it required 500,000 willpower to exchange for a 1-star cultivation. At that moment, Chu Bei's cultivation was a 9 stars Battle King. Without hesitation, Chu Bei directly used 1 million willpower to exchange for a cultivation. The host has successfully exchanged for a cultivation. When the system's voice sounded, Chu Bei only felt a warm current flowing through his limbs and bones, filling every cell. The battle energy in his body surged crazily until it slowed down and stabilized. This process didn't even take 10 seconds. However, Chu Bei knew that he was now a 2 stars battle emperor. Compared to other people, he used willpower to exchange for a cultivation. Leveling up was as smooth as an ancient well. It was powerful in the midst of calmness. In the afternoon, Vice Principal Hugon gathered the disciples who had just entered the inner academy from the outer academy. Little guys, I think you've already seen the blazing sky chi refining tower from afar. Now, I'll bring you into the tower for a walk. Hugon's loud and clear voice floated in the air. This will also be your admission reward. Amidst the excited cheers, the mighty group followed Hugon to the sunken land where the blazing sky chi refining tower was located. Looking around, within a 100-meter radius of the blazing sky chi refining tower, it was filled with disciples cultivating. Although cultivating outside the tower wasn't as good as cultivating inside the tower, it was still far better than other places in the inner academy. Look quickly. Are those people the new students who came from the outer academy this year? I heard that the champion of this year's new students is only 15 years old, and it hasn't even been 7 days since he reported to the outer academy. What? In other words, he directly entered the inner academy with the result of first place in the preliminaries right after he reported? Oh my God, is there such a monster? Where's that guy? Quickly point him out to me. Outside the blazing sky Chi refining tower, some disciples noticed the arrival of Hu Gan's group. As the discussion unfolded, numerous gazes gradually focused on Xiao Yan's body, carefully sizing him up. Other than that monstrous new student, who's the guy walking side by side with old man Hu? Could it be a new student with some background? At this time, some disciples noticed Chu Bei, and their words carried curiosity. Chapter 77. Old man who seems to be very polite to him. Looks like this guy's background is really not small. A disciple locked his gaze on Chu Bei and guessed, "You lunatics, don't just focus on cultivating. When you're free, you should find out what's going on outside." At this time, a red-clothed young man walked over and narrated the process of Chu Bei trampling on Ziyin in detail. The brute force king finally kicked an iron plate. Haha, hearing this news is really satisfying. I just don't know the background of this great god. After listening to the red-clothed young man's narration, the disciples once again looked at Chu Bei with more admiration in their eyes. Brother Hu, is this the boss Chu you mentioned to me? In front of the tower, a gray-clothed old man came forward. After greeting Hu Gan, he cupped his fists at Chu Bei. Chu Bei nodded in response. Open the side door. This group of little guys can't wait any longer. Hu Gan pointed at Wu Hao, Hu Jia, and the others behind him. All right, the gray-clothed old man replied, and then opened the originally tightly shut pitch-black door. As the door opened, the temperature in the air gradually rose. Follow me into the tower. After everything was ready, Hu Gan gave the order. In the next moment, the mighty group passed through the pitch-black door in an orderly manner. It's actually so big. After entering the tower, all the newcomers, including Xiao Yin and Hu Jia, sighed with emotion at the same time. It seems like a ball of flame suddenly appeared in my body. Me too. Dean, could this be the ball of flame that can speed up cultivation that you mentioned? Wu Hao, Nangong Chong, and the others quickly discovered the changes in their bodies and immediately looked at Hu Gan. Hu Gan nodded slightly. Before coming in, I made all of you swallow the frigidine water to prepare for this. Now, let's refine that ball of flame. Hearing Hu Gan's words, the group of disciples looked at each other and then sat down cross-legged, closing their eyes and concentrating. As time passed, Hu Jia, Nangong Chong, and the others were the first to open their eyes. They couldn't hide the excitement on their faces. Obviously, they had refined the ball of flame that had mysteriously appeared in their bodies and obtained great benefits from it. Gradually, more and more disciples opened their eyes, their faces filled with excitement. Xiao Yin was the same. Yao Lao, why would such a flame appear in my body for no reason? After refining it, the dou qi in my body will increase substantially. Xiao Yin shot a glance at Chu Bei, and when he discovered that Chu Bei wasn't looking at him, he transmitted his voice into his storage ring, formless and colorless, manifesting through the heart, leaving no trace to be found. Could this be the fallen heart flame? An aged voice sounded in Xiao Yan's sea of consciousness. Fallen heart flame? What's that? Xiao Yan looked confused and hurriedly asked. The heavenly flame ranked 14th on the heavenly flame ranking, Yao Lao replied. Heavenly flame. Xiao Yan's heart suddenly shook. He had long since learned of the name Mysterious Flame from Yao Lao's mouth. It was something that all high-level alchemists would risk their lives to pursue. Don't be excited. The flame that appeared in your bodies should only be a part of the fallen heart flame's main body that was projected into your hearts. Yao Lao's voice sounded once again. However, one thing is certain. The main body of the fallen heart flame is within this blazing sky Chi refining tower. There have long been rumors that Canaan College possesses a heavenly flame. It is unexpected that it is hidden within the inner academy, and it is the fallen heart flame that is ranked 14th. Yao Lao muttered to himself, "Don't tell me that the source of the blazing sky chi refining tower's ability to speed up one's training is this fallen heart flame." Xiao Yin had an epiphany. "Have you ever thought of obtaining this fallen heart flame?" Yao Lao changed his tone. "What a joke. This is Canaan College. With a Do Huang or even a Do Zong in charge, what's the difference between obtaining a heavenly flame and seeking death?" Xiao Yin shook his head. "I'm not asking you to refine it now. There will be plenty of time in the future." Yao Lao smiled. Xiao Yin hesitated for a moment and said, "I can do that." He had only refined one strand of the fallen heart flame out of the billions of strands, and he had already felt the wonders within it. If he could really refine the original body, the benefits he would obtain would definitely be endless. At this moment, Chu Bei's thoughts were not on Xiao Yin. Otherwise, if he knew that Xiao Yin also had designs on the fallen heart flame, it was unknown how he would feel in his heart. Under Hu Gan's lead, the group of new students also gradually understood the layout of the blazing sky chi refining tower. Every floor of the tower was distributed in a circular shape, and training rooms of different sizes were built. Due to the different geographical locations of these rooms and their distance from the center of the tower, they could be divided into 3 levels, high and low. After you have been allocated the fire ability, you can choose a room to train in. On the same floor, the prices of the 3 levels of rooms are the same. However, it will still depend on your strength as to who gets it in the end. Hu Gan smiled as he looked at the group of new students. Therefore, even in the blazing sky chi refining tower, there is no fairness to speak of. "Grandfather, this is..." When the group of people walked to the center of the tower, Hu Jia pointed at a bottomless black hole that was like the mouth of a well and looked at Hu Gan. And at this time, due to curiosity, more and more disciples gathered in front of the black hole and looked down. They only saw that the inside of the hole was pitch black, and there wasn't the slightest bit of light. It was as if the black hole had penetrated the entire blazing sky chi refining tower. "Don't you guys feel that the temperature of this hole is higher than other places? Could it be that the heat of the blazing sky chi refining tower originates from this hole?" Wu Hao guessed. Just when Xiao Yin also moved his head closer to look at the black hole, the space within it suddenly started to strangely distort. Following that, the distorted space seemed to have transformed into invisible pythons and climbed up the hole with an extremely terrifying speed. "All of you scatter." Hu Gan seemed to have sensed something, and his expression suddenly changed. He immediately waved his hands to create an energy storm and shook away Xiao Yin, Hu Jia, Wu Hao, and the others who were around the hole. It was also at this time that a sharp, ear-piercing hissing sound came from the hole. The pitch-black environment suddenly brightened up and the temperature in the air rapidly rose. Immediately after, an extremely terrifying and ancient aura that caused one's heart to palpitate pervaded out from the hole. "Grandfather, what's going on? Is there something in there?" Hu Jia stared at the hole in a daze. Her face was a little pale and her throat couldn't help but roll. The space above the hole was already distorted to the extreme. Numerous spatial cracks spread out like a spider web, and the hissing sound from an unknown source became even more ear-piercing and sharp. However, when one looked over, there was nothing in the entire space. It was extremely strange. "You guys don't need to ask too much. Just remember, don't go near that hole." Hu Gan seemed to know something, but he wasn't willing to say too much. He only sternly warned Xiao Yin, Hu Jia, and the others. "Xiao Yin brat, if my guess is correct, the fallen heart flame should be right below that hole." At this time, Yao Lao's voice sounded in Xiao Yan's mind. Looking at Chu Bei again, he had already leisurely walked to the side of the hole by himself. He lowered his head and looked down as if he was thinking about something. Chapter 78. Boss Chu, with your cultivation, you should be able to see it, right? Hu Gan had also arrived in front of the cave entrance and stood beside Chu Bei. Chu Bei nodded slightly in response. Below the cave entrance, a huge fire python that was over 10 meters thick was wreaking havoc. The fire python's entire body was wrapped in twisted flames. The fangs in its huge mouth dripped with hot magma. A pair of frightening triangular eyes were spitting out raging flames. These flames came from the same source as the heart flame that appeared in everyone's body. However, if the two were to be compared, it was undoubtedly the difference between a bright moon and a firefly. As for the flames that the fire python emitted, even if a Do Huang came into contact with it, he would not be able to escape and would be burned to ashes in the end. Hiss hiss. The fire python seemed to have discovered Chu Bei and who gone at the entrance of the cave. It leaped up at a frightening speed. However, just as it was about to reach the edge of the cave entrance, a space cage that contained a powerful force appeared and blocked the fire python. The fire python seemed to have long been accustomed to the existence of the space cage. It opened its huge mouth and spat out hot flames, continuously burning the space cage. However, the cage was so sturdy that it was not damaged in the slightest. In the end, the fire python let out an unwilling roar and returned to the depths of the cave. This strength is a little weak. Looks like I have to add some fuel to the fire. Chu Bei held his chin and muttered to himself. The purpose of his trip to Canaan College was to make a deal for the fallen heart flame. If he were to tell Hugon the reason for his visit without any reason, Canaan College would not make this deal no matter what, given how much importance they placed on the fallen heart flame. Because of this, Chu Bei could only play the role of a treacherous businessman. Boss Chu, what did you say about adding fuel to the fire? Hugon looked at Chu Bei in confusion. Nothing. I just feel that with the strength of this fire python, the day of breaking the seal is not far away. Chu Bei casually said. Boss Chu, don't worry. According to Great Elder Su's judgment, it will be fine for at least 3 years. Hugon was very confident. Chu Bei smiled and did not continue the conversation. However, when Hugon was unaware, a crimson-red bead slipped from his left hand that was placed at the entrance of the cave and entered the cave. Chu Bei had spent 50,000 willpower points to purchase the Fire Spirit Pearl from the merchant store. When combined with fire, it could strengthen the fire element. After visiting the Blazing Heavens Chi Refining Tower, Hugon led everyone to line up to receive a fire tablet. The next morning, the several hundred cultivation rooms within the Blazing Sky Chi Refining Tower were quiet as usual. There was a figure sitting cross-legged in every cultivation room. They were fully focused on using the heart flame to cultivate. Xiao Yin, Hu Jia, Wu Hao, and the other new disciples also joined the army after they had been allocated the fire energy. Each of them occupied a training room. Rumble. Suddenly, a loud noise sounded from the center of the tower. Immediately after, the Blazing Heavens Chi Refining Tower suddenly trembled. In the hundreds of cultivation rooms, the originally peaceful energy suddenly boiled like boiling water, becoming violent. The tower is shaking. This has never happened before. What happened? More and more disciples walked out of the cultivation rooms. All of them stabilized their bodies and looked at each other in dismay. Their faces were filled with fear. Cultivation Room 211. Xiao Yan's tightly shut eyes suddenly opened. He frowned as he felt the shaking cultivation room. Yao Lao, why did the energy in the tower suddenly become so violent? Could it be the doing of the fallen heart flame again? Xiao Yin immediately transmitted a message to Yao Lao. Strange. Very strange. Yao Lao flew out from Xiao Yan's storage ring and stroked his white beard. Compared to yesterday, the aura that the fallen heart flame gave me is several times stronger. How is this possible? It has only been a day. Xiao Yan's face was filled with shock. If my guess is correct, the fallen heart flame has already started to rebel. According to the current aura fluctuation, it will break the seal in less than 3 days. Yao Lao's expression was serious, but did an old man who say that it wouldn't rebel for at least 3 years? Xiao Yan was astonished and had a confused expression. This is also something that I don't understand. Yao Lao's brows were tightly knitted, but my feeling can't be wrong. The power of the fallen heart flame is indeed rising at a terrifying speed. All students in the tower, listen up. Evacuate from the Blazing Sky Chi Refining Tower within 15 minutes. Just at this moment, a vigorous and old voice resounded in the entire tower. It reverberated in everyone's ears and did not disperse for a long time. This is Elder Chio's voice. Looks like something has really happened. We can't stay here any longer. Hearing the shout, the group of disciples came back to their senses and rushed toward the door like a swarm of bees. Xiaoyan also did not hesitate and used his speed to the limit. With the fallen heart flame rebelling, the energy in the tower was no longer suitable for cultivation. Staying here would only increase the risk. When the group of disciples arrived outside the tower, the shock on their faces was even greater. They saw that the sky above the blazing sky chi refining tower was blood red. They could faintly see that the space was distorted by the high temperature. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Amidst the sound of breaking air, several figures quickly flew over from afar. Bang! Before the distant figures arrived, a low, muffled sound that was similar to the beating of a heart came from the tower. What's that sound? Quickly look at the top of the tower. Why are there so many fire snakes? Could it be that there's really something mysterious that we don't know about under the blazing sky chi refining tower? Looking at the thousands of fire snakes that appeared out of thin air at the top of the tower, the group of disciples gasped. Very quickly, several figures that flew over from afar appeared in the sky above the blazing sky chi refining tower. The one in the lead was an old man in a black robe with a white beard and white hair. Why did the strength of the fallen heart flame increase so much in just one day? Su Qian tilted his head and looked at the few elders that were guarding the blazing sky chi refining tower beside him. He questioned with a pair of cold eyes that were like the edge of a blade. First elder, we don't know either. At this time yesterday, there wasn't any abnormality. An elder spoke and his eyes were filled with bewilderment. Exactly where did the problem occur? Su Qian's brows were tightly knit together. With a stride, he had already appeared 10 meters above the top of the tower. Bang, bang, bang. The sound that was similar to the beating of a heart sounded out once again. Along with the passage of time, the frequency of the sound became more and more hurried. Until a few seconds later, the group of elders, including Su Qian, were shocked to discover that the frequency of the sound started to correspond with the sound of their heartbeats. A ball of blazing heart flame abruptly rose from within their bodies. Damn it! It's launching an attack. The group of elders hurriedly circulated their dou qi and crazily suppressed the heart flame that emerged from within their bodies. Rumble. The blazing sky chi refining tower trembled even more intensely. What are you all still standing there for? All of you, get away from the blazing sky chi refining tower. Feeling the energy that was still explosively rising within the tower, Su Qian swept his gaze over the group of disciples that didn't know what was going on and loudly shouted, "What exactly is within the tower?" The group of disciples flew swiftly towards the distance and occasionally turned their heads to look at the blazing sky chi refining tower. Another loud bang sounded out. A fiery wave that was over 30 meters tall gushed out from the top of the tower and charged into the sky. I'm curious about the person who sold this array. I'm willing to sell such a treasure. The group of elders spoke out one after another. Mubei Munin, the two of you go and find the dean. Su Qian looked at the giant fire python with incomparable fear. Its strength is still increasing at a terrifying rate. Even with the support of the 9 chains formation, I'm afraid it won't be able to last much longer. Due to the huge commotion caused by the fire python, more and more inner yard instructors and disciples rushed over. Boss Chu, Vice Dean Hu gone. You guys are finally here. The moment Xiao Yin saw Chu Bei, he immediately went to greet him. How could this be? Seeing the scene above the blazing sky chi refining tower, Hu Gan was stunned. His face was filled with disbelief. On a new day, he borrowed from all his old acquaintances in the inner yard. However, he had just finished rotating the plates at Chu Bei's place when he heard an intense roar. At first, he thought that it was a few old men from the inner yard sparring. Thinking about it, it was actually the fallen heart flame that had gone berserk. Didn't you say that it would be fine for 3 years? Chu Bei looked at this big customer beside him with interest. His face was filled with amusement. Just 15 minutes ago, Hu Gan had spent another 80 million gold coins, allowing him to obtain 400,000 will value. It shouldn't be. Hugon glanced at Chu Bei before rising into the air. In a few steps, he arrived in front of Su Qian. Old man Hu, you have broken through. When did this happen? Congratulations. Congratulations. The group of elders were initially stunned when they saw Hugon, after which they cupped their hands together and congratulated him. Shock flashed across Su Qian's eyes when he saw Hugon break through to the Dozong class. Why has its strength increased by a couple of times in just one night? Hugon looked at Su Qian. Su Qian shook his head and sighed repeatedly. Feng City. Although the city was not big, it was named after a person. In the entire Black Corner region, there were only a few people who had such an honor. Han Feng, a Tier 6 peak alchemist, the #1 alchemist in the Black Corner region. Due to the uniqueness of an alchemist, he possessed an important position in the Black Corner region. Even a Dozong would have to be polite when meeting him. After all, the rallying power of a Tier 6 peak alchemist could not be underestimated. In the middle of the city, there was a bamboo forest. In the depths of the bamboo forest, there were many bamboo houses. In the bamboo house, a middle-aged man wearing an alchemist robe was sitting cross-legged. On the back of the robe, there was an eye-catching Feng character. At this moment, Han Feng was focused on a medicinal formula in his hand. His mind was not distracted. Suddenly, Han Feng raised his head. His sharp gaze shot toward the distant northern sky. He could faintly sense a strange yet somewhat familiar energy ripple. This is the aura of a heavenly flame. Han Feng's eyes focused. In order to confirm his guess, Han Feng slowly closed his eyes. He flicked his finger gently, and a deep blue flame, which was like clear lake water, was emitted from his body. Finally, it tightly wrapped around him. This deep blue flame was extremely strange. At a glance, it was like a cluster of clear lake water flowing. Sea Heart Flame, ranked 15th on the Heavenly Flame ranking. Following the rise of the Sea Heart Flame, Han Feng's spiritual awareness soared. The vague feeling from earlier appeared to be surging beside him at this moment and was extremely clear. It is indeed a heavenly flame. Han Feng's expression was excited. However, a seriousness quickly surfaced on Han Feng's face. Han Bong, immediately contact the spies of the inner court of Canaan and see if there are any changes. A moment later, Han Feng circulated his Do Chi and transmitted his voice toward a bamboo house not far away. 1 hour later, there is news that the blazing Sky Chi refining tower is suppressing an enormous fire python. Now that the fire python has rebelled, Su Qian and the other elders of the inner court are reinforcing the seal. However, the effect is not ideal. A man with red words appeared in front of Han Feng and was incomparably respectful. Fire python? Looks like the rumor is true. Canaan College does indeed have a heavenly flame. Han Feng narrowed his eyes and said, Is Meng Qianqi in the inner court? According to the spies, Meng Qianqi is wandering outside. Su Qian is now in charge of the inner court. Han Bong replied, Haha, looks like this is the best time. Han Feng took out a token from his chest. His eyes were like lightning. We must hurry and get the heavenly flame before Meng Qianqi returns. Take this and invite the leaders of the Earthly Blaze sect, the Eight Doors School, and the Blood sect, as well as the Gold and Silver Elders. The Gold and Silver Elders are dead. The man in red cupped his fist and said, What? Dead? Han Feng was shocked. The Gold and Silver Elders combined could defeat the Battle sect. In the vast Black Corner region, there were very few people who could defeat them, let alone kill them. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.